welcome to the Funfiltered podcast.
You've only got one other show, Sam. You're all
I know, but it's two shows but three names. It gets confusing sometimes.
Yeah. Fun.
Anyone would think we hadn't done this in weeks.
Indeed. How have you been, lads?
Yeah, I've been alright. Been playing with my growler.
Well, we've all been playing with our growlers, George. What have you? Does it growl?
No,
is that figurative?
I was going to go get it, but I'm all wired in at the moment. Okay. Did you ever watch Robot Wars when you were younger?
No.
Or older? Have you ever watched Robot Wars?
Very briefly.
Like, I know what it is. I know, like, the setup.
Well, obviously, they've got like house robots, haven't they? Which are like, they're
field robots as well.
What?
They're field robots as well.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, right. It took me a minute. I was like, hang on. But that's
go on.
A slavery thing. Yeah, one of the house robots that they introduced in one of the later seasons is called Growler, and he's basically like this robot dog.
Right.
And he has like his mouth opens and it like crushes robots and stuff. And I have like a remote control Growler that's been in like the garage for months, but Dad's been like digging stuff out of the garage, so it's now in my room again.
Right.
So I'm not gonna lie to you, I haven't touched it.
Right.
I just thought the phrase "playing with my growler"
yeah.
would be a fun way to open the podcast.
Yes.
So
yeah,
I've more just been admiring it from afar.
You've been admiring your growler from afar.
From afar, yeah.
Okay. Eddie, have you been playing with anything?
Not like that. No.
Okay.
No. I mean, writing's quite boring.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
No. I tried going on. So. I live near the barrage, and on the sort of Penarth Cliffs, there's a derelict building on a hill, and I basically spent 3 days trying to figure out if I could get like up to where the building is, and discovered that it's like on a private estate, which used to be like home to this like £1.2 million mansion, but you can't actually get to the building that's on the edge of the cliff without going through the estate, and no one on the estate lets you go on.
What is the secret?
I don't know. It's literally just like, it was from what I can read online, it was like an outhouse, like billiard room,
right?
That's just been left, and obviously like the cliffs at some point are going to give way. And I just wanted to have a look. It'll be boring,
just an avalanche.
But I just want
snooker balls.
Does it have like? Is it all alone on the top of a cliff? And is there like a little ring of like dark storm clouds and lightning that hovers only over that building?
Oh, do you know what? That would be cool.
Yeah,
but no. So I was kind of like trying to see if I could find the way to get to it anyway without going through the estate.
Yeah.
To no avail. So I've kind of come to the conclusion that what I'm going to have to do is buy a drone. So that I can. I'll just send it up. Take some
would
pictures.
approve of that either, honestly, Eddie.
I don't care. I'll just fly it up, take some pictures. It'll be boring, but I will have figured out what I want to figure out.
I wholly endorse this. You're compelled. You have an obligation to find out what's in that room.
Yeah,
that structure.
I just don't get why, because it seems to be a thing. Just you cannot now get to it, and I was like, that seems a bit strange to me.
Well, where the hell are they billiarding if they're not doing it in the billiards room?
Yeah, I don't know, but. Yes. Other than that, no, I've basically done nothing.
Okay.
Can you hear the Hoover that's right outside my room?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Yes. No one was here yesterday.
Okay.
They must know, because I don't tell them.
Right.
I haven't told them, because like, what are they gonna do? You know?
Yeah.
But still.
I can hear more than a Hoover as well. There's someone singing along to the Hoover.
Well, that's the music. That's the really loud music that my dad started blaring out like an hour ago.
Well, he's got to hear it over the Hoover, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that he's got it figured out. I'm glad that he's sorted.
Is that your growler? I can hear your growler. You guys know that I listen to some ASMR stuff. There's one of them. She goes by the name Scottish Murmurs ASMR. Shout out. And there was just a really funny bit from one of her videos where at the top of every video, she says, "Hello, boys and girls and everybody else." And in this one particular video, she elected to explain why she says everybody else. No matter what your opinion is about gender, etc., everyone needs to feel included, all that sort of stuff. And in this video, she has her dog with her. And then her next breath is to say, for example, dogs could be everybody else. That was the example that she used.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Is the implication that dogs can be between male and female, or people who are between male and female are basically dogs? What was the implication of that
What's
statement?
the less charitable interpretation?
They're both not great, I'll be honest.
I suppose I like the idea that dogs have gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
So I'm inclined to choose to believe that.
I mean, they are a happy bunch, dogs.
They are.
aren't they?
I just
They seem
like
to have got it all
dogs.
figured out.
I just like dogs.
Yeah.
Well, are trannies happy? Because I think if we can say that they are, then they might well be dogs.
I don't know if they are, though.
They're not. That's the thing. They're not.
There's like a bunch of data suggesting that they're definitely not.
They're definitely not.
I think.
Yeah.
I feel like this is slightly related to what we're talking to, right? But where my mum lives, they have a cat, and
Right.
she has told me now, like 3 or 4 times in the last few conversations, that she's got to the point where she's convinced that this cat thinks it's a dog. And I wonder how much of like a thing that is. Like,
Well, that's trans species dysphoria.
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
something else entirely.
Yeah.
that is.
yeah, because it does just make me laugh. I was like, cat that thinks it's a dog.
Maybe trans people are cats, because cats aren't happy, are they?
Well, cats feel superior. So you're probably right.
Yeah, I don't actually know the typical emotional state of a cat,
Indifferent.
because like you see a dog and you're like, right, yeah, you're enjoying life.
Yes.
You see a cat, and yes, they exude that sense of like superiority.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you angry?
I think cats.
I don't know what you are, cat.
They're poised between murderousness and indifference, aren't they?
Okay.
So they're walking around thinking everything's beneath them. But yeah, I don't get the sense that this makes them miserable. I get the sense that they're so arrogant that they couldn't even be miserable about it. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
Unless they're trying to kill something. That's what a cat is.
Okay.
So I would start having, a lot more belief. It would have a lot more credence to it if... So, there are people who identify as dogs and as, various
Yes.
wildlife. It's either like I identify as a man, woman, or I identify as a dog. I've never heard anyone say I identify as a dog who has gender dysphoria. Like it's I've never heard anything that specific, and I think if we started hearing those stories, it would be a lot more believable.
Okay.
So have you ever watched?
Does that venture into the territory of people who are like
Nuts.
Well, yes, but is that venturing to the same territory as like, oh, I'm a woman who identifies as a man, and my partner is a man who identifies as a woman, and we're in a
straight relationship,
a gay relationship that is straight because. No, hang on.
No.
I can't even keep track of my own example.
It's just
like people who are in gay relationships, but because of how they like identify, it somehow ends up being a straight relationship.
I think if you're getting two people who both have gender dysphoria, it just 360s and becomes a heterosexual relationship just with a Freaky Friday situation.
Yeah.
So I guess if I was dating a woman who identifies as a man, then it would be I won't say technically, a philosophically gay relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you ever watched a video of people who think they're dogs?
I've known one.
Well, no, but now it's all I want to do.
What is this?
Damn this podcast for not letting me go and watch their dog videos.
Well, I think once you've watched it, you might not say that.
You can't unwatch it.
You can't. It is a very... let them do what they want to do. But it is a very weird watching experience, seeing someone bark and think that that's normal.
Well, here's the thing. If you think that you are sincerely a dog, you genuinely believe that, does anything about reality conspire to disprove that notion? Like, what would you need to confirm to you that you are in fact a Homo sapien? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's going around just like behaving like your dog, like I'm just going to walk on all fours and just like howl at the moon and stuff. That's one thing. But like actually thinking, I know, like on a DNA level, I'm canine. Or is it that I was born in the wrong body? Like, what is the fundamental...
I think it's that. I think it's like, yes, I know that on a biological level I am human.
Right.
but that won't stop me being what I truly am.
So it's like a failure of reincarnation almost. It's like their spirit was put in the wrong body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of.
All right. I'd want to talk to someone. I'm just imagining having a conversation with someone who like really believes it.
I want to know. I want to know if they eat dog treats.
They almost certainly do, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's part of the.
I was saying because I mean, like Shaggy and that used to eat Scooby snacks, and I always
Scooby
wondered
snacks are human food.
No,
right?
I know, but I always wondered whether there was a dog, because obviously they were giving them to Scooby Doo, and I was like, I wonder if those are like there's a dog treat version, and that's just what they're giving Shaggy, because he's just not. He wouldn't notice. The man's too stoned all of the time.
Well, I think you know,
Shaggy's eating dog food.
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, I think I know people
when that man's got the
food.
munchies, he's eaten anything.
Yeah, I think like even if there's someone who is genuinely kind of mentally in a mental state that they believe they are a dog, there tends to be a degree of fetishization with a lot of this stuff. Like the sexuality always gets pulled into it. It's always in that Venn diagram, and so I think anything that that easily was an easy emblem for dog would be appropriated. So they almost certainly sleep in kennels. They drink water out of bowls. You know,
little dog beds.
Little dog beds.
Yeah.
You know, they indiscriminately rape.
Yeah, they love a good bone. Those dog people.
They love a good. There you go. And I think there's nothing more we can say about that. It's been said.
We've peaked in terms of that conversation. Yeah.
I've been watching a show called Younger.
Okay.
Ooh, do I know this?
I don't know. I haven't talked to you about it.
Okay.
It's a comedy series that's created by the dude that ran Sex and the City. I think it's fair.
I don't know this.
You don't know it? No, it's quite a niche show. It's on like a channel. Well, I don't even know what the channel is. Like Life.
It's on a channel that doesn't exist.
Some channel doesn't exist. Yeah. I think it's fair to say that it's catered principally for women and gay men. But that's not me being Sam. I think that's fair.
Well, Sex and the City is like this notoriously like a woman's show.
Yeah, and this is that.
You know, like
the premise of the show.
The stereotype of a woman.
This is a show about a woman in her 40s who wants to work in publishing, but apparently I can see this being true. The world of publishing has an ageist dimension to it, and they hire young women, and they don't go for middle-aged. And so she decides to lie about her age, saying she's 26, to get into this company. And obviously she's got to lie to the friends she makes there, the bosses. And this all stems from her being in a bar and I guess looking younger than her years. And a guy in his 20s hits on her, like a really young athletic, and she lies to him about her age. She's like, oh, maybe I could lie about it for my career. And I just wanted to bring it up because there's one scene in it. This is sort of the mode of the show. I'm actually quite enjoying it on like a stupid soapy level.
Right.
But there's this scene, there's this episode where there's a fundamental disagreement in the relationship. The guy wants to try anal sex and she doesn't. But she doesn't want to tell him that. And there's like a through line, kind of a recurring idea through the episode as well, that she wants to get a tattoo. And at the end of the episode, they lull you into thinking that she's acquiesced to his sexual suggestion. And there's the sequence, and they play it 100% straight, right? Where it's like candles are lit, and then the guy is like wearing gloves, and he like lubes up his hands and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and then and then she's pulling down like her dress, and then it just shows her lying on like a tattoo artist chair. Like and he bends down to give her a tattoo like on her arse or whatever. And if that was played for a laugh, fair enough, but it's really not. It's played as like a
sorry. So she got the tattoo. She got the tattoo on her arse.
Either also like her lower back,
I was no, yeah, but like lower thing. If she's like, no, you can't go near my arse. Oh, but a tattoo on my bum.
Oh yeah, Eddie, you've got tattoos, right?
Yeah.
Is that like not a good place to get a tattoo, near or on your arse?
It's a weird place to get a tattoo.
I mean, to be fair, I think it's fair. It's fair of her to be okay with having a tattoo on her cheek and then having an organ rammed up her passage. Like I would probably be more okay with getting a tattoo.
I mean, it depends. For some people, one hurts more than the other. It's not always that way round that you think it is.
I suppose, but at least one carries very few implications beyond what it actually is. The other one, there's a lot more going on there.
I mean, I was gonna say you can't sit down with a tattoo on your bum, but you can't really sit down. Sometimes.
Well,
I was gonna say, can you sit down?
I suppose
after
that depends as well, right? It's all relative.
Yeah. All I'm saying, I don't know. Have you ever seen?
No, I've never had anal sex, Eddie.
Have you ever seen Cheryl Cole's bum tattoo?
I think I have. Yeah.
I don't know.
Is it a rose?
It's a massive rose over both like cheeks and stuff like that. Right. All I'm saying is,
please tell me that the center of the petal is.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, all I'm saying is that a tattoo like that, not only will it have taken absolutely ages, but when that starts to like blister and heal and stuff and all that it does, right?
Yeah.
There is no way she could have sat down for like weeks.
But she's too rich and famous to get something as mundane as a blister.
She's too rich and famous to sit down.
Yeah, exactly.
Something only poor people deal with.
I forgot we're talking about a different class system.
As soon as you earn like X amount of millions of dollars, you unlock like a fourth state of like there's sitting, there's standing, there's lying down, but there's a fourth one that we're all too poor to understand.
Yeah, hovering.
Yeah.
And then my final little tidbit, my life tidbit.
Fuck is this podcast?
I was reading about the side effects or the effects of withdrawal from a particular medication, and it's this list of things, and it's all the usual stuff we'd expect: headaches, irritability, nausea, dizziness. At the bottom of that list was spontaneous orgasm. Now,
Right, okay.
Eddie,
Yeah.
what's that about then? What's going on there?
Do you know
Explain
what?
it to me.
Eddie, you've spontaneously orgasmed. Explain it to us.
I can't say I've ever met anyone that's experienced said side effect.
Yeah, what a wonderful world it would be.
But I suppose, anything's plausible.
Is it what? So it's like an unstimulated, like you could just be walking, or you could just be sitting in your house, and then all of a sudden you just like
It was basically
you go
cock
for
attack,
it, you know? Yeah.
if it's messing with the chemicals in your body, I suppose.
Yeah.
That there is like something there that depending on how they're trying to like rebalance themselves, that could go askew in a certain direction and make you overly sexualized.
And why am I just getting the dizziness and the irritability?
Do you want a
side effect?
Are you saying you want a spontaneous orgasm?
I'm saying I wouldn't not want one.
That's weird. Not that it makes you horny, that it makes you like climax, basically.
That's
like,
the
instantly.
thing. If it was like, heightened libido or something, it's like, okay, I sort of get that. A general state, a change in state.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not just like something that. You're picturing it the same as I am, right? You're walking down the street and all of a sudden like,
Yeah.
I'm just picturing the Lonely Island's jizz in my pants video.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
That's been
Just
my life.
Just you walking down the street going like that. Just be like, oh no.
Eddie, do that face again.
No, no, absolutely not.
No, go on.
Please.
Jordan, I'm not letting you record me do that. Absolutely not.
I'm not going to record you. Go on.
Jordan, your hand is ready by the record button.
There is what record button?
Right, we all know.
What's the record button on a keyboard?
We all know there is a record button on Skype, and your hand is currently hovering over the keyboard, and I can tell from the position you're sat
I'm
in.
gonna wager
No.
that your finger's hovering over the print screen button.
Well, you just gave it away now, Sam. It was going to be the thumbnail for the video. Steady.
I'm absolutely not doing
contorting
that.
in pleasure.
Absolutely not doing
Photoshop. Easily
You
done.
spoiled sport, Eddie. You're a spoiled sport.
that. Well, you do it then, Jord.
No, but you did it. Like, it was...
I don't care.
You know.
You want it? You do it.
To be fair, I do think George, because in our cover songs, I'm doing the singing. Eddie's doing the
Ridiculous,
the gimmicky, silly stuff, and you get to play the elegant piano, and we have to do the wee for Doctor Who. I think you should have to lower yourself to do something.
If you guys want to learn the piano to play the cover songs, that's fine by me.
If you want to lend me your piano, Jord,
it behooves you to be stupid.
Behooves. Because the Doctor Who.
Oh,
You
sure.
do the embarrassing part of the Doctor
Sure,
Who.
yeah, that was intentional.
Behooves.
So, there's going to be a Sonic sequel. Jord, go.
Do you know what I'm...
Saddle up, ladies and gentlemen. This is the next hour of the podcast.
Do you know what I'm really looking forward to about the sequel?
What?
I'm really looking forward to having to watch 90 minutes of like uninspired drivel that people think is good because it's ultimately inoffensive.
Right.
So that I can get to the 30-second mid-credit teaser where Knuckles shows up, which means I can get excited for the next 90 minutes of uninspired drivel. And I'm particularly looking forward to repeating this cycle basically forever.
Are you really looking forward to it though? Because you sounded sarcastic.
No. I'm genuinely looking forward.
I'm just waiting for the look on your face when he gets nominated for an Oscar, which will be completely and utterly undeserved. But there'll be nothing else in competition for whatever reason.
But bear in mind, like, you know, just the film itself, all the like it's absolutely not Oscar material. But there is an original song in there, and basically nothing has come out this year, so they're gonna have to fill the categories with something.
Well, here's a question: if a Sonic film, assuming that they continue the trend of being middle of the road, inoffensive schlock, if one of them is nominated for an Oscar, but you know, for visual effects or for makeup, would that irk you?
I mean, it depends. Like, the visual effects, they're okay.
They're fine.
They weren't, like, amazing. Sonic was well done. That was basically it.
They're, like, what the least you can expect, like, with a certain budget, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, yes, it would irk me greatly, because these films, though... But then again, like, Suicide Squad won an Oscar.
Yeah, but...
And a lot of people just kind of go, oh, well, that one doesn't count. You know?
Yeah, that's always bothered me. I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Like, if a terrible film has great costumes, then award the costume designer didn't write it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Jim Carrey to be up for Best Supporting. Ooh.
I think
Turner's Eggman.
I think for that to happen.
Why are you trying to? I'm trying to keep a level head here, Eddie.
Because I want you to go off the rails, Jord.
It would require the main course that COVID has been the entree for. To get to a year where Jim Carrey is up for supporting actor for playing Eggman. But that could well happen. Anything can happen now.
Anything could happen at this point.
Exactly.
There have been so many harbingers, so many heralds of the apocalypse this year.
Yeah.
That maybe Jim Carrey winning an Oscar for Sonic will be like the trumpet sound before the rapture. That's all we have to say, really, isn't it? Just like, I
don't know. Like, I was watching the... Because CinemaSins, as of time of recording, CinemaSins released a video on the Sonic movie, I think yesterday, I think.
Oh, cool.
I haven't watched CinemaSins in ages, and I haven't seen the film basically since it came out. So I was like, I'll watch the video,
right,
and I'll see if the video inspires me to continue watching either.
Right.
So I was just watching the video, and I was kind of like being reminded of the film, and I was just watching the sins that they were assigning it, and I was like, human beings... are the product of like millions of years of science and miracles, basically.
Okay.
Like we're just.
I like how you lumped in miracles with science there.
Well, they're two separate things, you know.
Yeah, but they're incompatible things, right?
Yeah, but like the science, like.
It's fine.
Yes, science is what got us
quibble.
here.
Carry on with your rhetoric.
I know what you're saying, but like science got us here. But some of the science is so like unlikely. It's basically a miracle.
Okay,
you know?
Fine. Yes, I will. Yes.
But yeah, we're just like we are science and miracles.
Science and miracles.
Millions of years of science and miracles, and here we are. These bags of meat that are just piloted by this pink blob of fat.
Right.
In our heads, within which is chemistry so sophisticated.
Right.
That we have like sentience.
Yeah.
Like we are able to comprehend not just what we are, but like where we came from, to a certain degree where we're going. We're able to conjure things like mathematics and language and like all these complicated systems just out of thin air.
Right.
Like we can experience emotions so powerful that they can unravel the minds of like that were mighty enough to understand them in the first place.
Right.
And yet we humans, the phenomenal phenomenon that we are, watched the Sonic movie and went, yep, more please.
Okay, maybe not the more please, I think, but I certainly watched it and went, okay. I think that is my review of Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay.
Right.
That is my...
that's funny. That's my review of 2020.
That's true. My review for 2020 is like, it's okay, but it starts off as confusion and shock and it becomes anger. So it's like, okay.
2020 is just a really bad date.
Yeah. I think you got to remember that, you know, Sonic the Hedgehog, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, would have been magic to primitive civilization. It would have been sorcery. Showing it would
you
they
could
would
say
have, they
that
would have,
about any. You could say that about like a fucking Adam Sandler movie.
You could.
But Grown Ups too. If you showed that to a caveman, they'd think it was amazing.
You could, but I think
no. You show the caveman.
I'd rather you just make a film like, I don't know, The Dark Knight, where you show it to like a modern person and they go, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
I'm not disputing that. I'm just I'm throwing a spanner into the idea that we've gone through all this progress and this is what we've come up with when. You could show anything we have now to someone who.
It's not just the fact that like, oh, this is like all of everything that's happened to us, and this is the best we could come up with.
Yes,
it's more the fact that everyone else went, "Yep, that's the best we can come up with." I trust this was the best you could do to someone.
Are people saying that though? I mean, it had like middle of the road okay-ish
It wasn't
reviews.
a disaster, therefore it's good.
No. I mean, I think there's a lot of it wasn't a disaster, therefore it wasn't a disaster.
And that was after they spent millions.
I'm genuinely interested to see. Sorry, Eddie, I talked over you there.
I said that's after
they spent. You got me talking about Sonic, so I'm not going to shut up. So just take the opportunity that you can.
I said that was after they had spent millions reanimating it.
Well, that's the thing, because expectations weren't the best when it was announced, because not only is this a Sonic movie, and people generally don't have a good opinion of Sonic, but also it was a video game movie, and it was a live-action CG hybrid. So it was like everything was in place for it to be a fucking disaster. Then that first trailer come out, and everyone was like, oh yeah, it's going to be a fucking disaster.
Right.
And then they improved it, which we're all like, the narrative is that it wasn't deliberate, right? That's what we're all saying.
That's not the narrative, that's just the reality.
Sure. So it wasn't deliberate.
Are you?
No, I genuinely don't believe it was deliberate.
Are you conspiracy nut all of a sudden?
I do think it's fortunate. Because the point that I'm basically making is that it was going to be a disaster. The first reveal, it's going to be an absolute disaster. Then they improved the design, and they cut together a really good trailer. And everyone went, oh, okay, maybe it won't be a disaster. And then the film came out, and it sort of met, and maybe for some people even exceeded the expectations set by the second trailer. And they were like, oh, okay, this was actually not a bad thing.
Right.
So I'll be interested to see how the second film does when expectations have been set like moderate to high for most people. I think that's part of the success of the first film, is that no one thought it would be good and it was okay, therefore it exceeded expectations. The second one has something to live up to now.
I think it's relative in the sense that Eddie and I sort of end up being Sonic apologists just by virtue of not thinking that it's, a film by Goebbels. But, like...
Hey, Goebbels did some wonderful stuff with cinema.
Some Wunder cinema.
Tim Miller hasn't. People apologise for him, though, for some fucking reason.
Here's the thing. If we were doing this podcast and, Jordan, you loved the Sonic the Hedgehog film for whatever reason, I would be going, are you fucking nuts? It's rubbish.
Yeah.
So, like, pretty much in any other context, I am not the defender of Sonic the Hedgehog. But only in the context of thinking it is bad as you're saying. All of a sudden, like, it's not that bad.
I mean, you say that, Sam.
Yes.
The film was originally supposed to come out in November of 2019, right?
Yeah.
Didn't come out. Round about the time in November 2019 when the film was supposed to come out, COVID-19 suddenly transfers from bats to people.
Right.
Then the film actually comes out in February.
Yeah.
Not long after that, COVID-19 becomes a global pandemic.
Right.
I'm not saying the two are related.
Yeah.
I just think it's fascinating that the two... like, the proposed release date and the actual release date somewhat coincide with, like, the biggest event of our lifetimes taking place.
So what
that is causing hundreds of thousands of deaths.
What correlation are you drawing?
Well, I'm not drawing any correlation. I'm just saying that, isn't it a coincidence that COVID-19 and Sonic sort of occurred around the same time?
Okay. I think it's a reach. But you mentioned it jumping from bats to people, and the thinking at the moment seems to be that isn't the case.
Oh, is it not?
No. So what started as an out there conspiracy theory is gaining traction as a feasible possibility, which is that it came from a lab. It came from a lab.
I swear to God, if you say 5G, I'm going to punch my desk.
No, China were developing it in a lab, and it got out either accidentally or not accidentally.
Why do I feel like if that's the case, that it'll turn out that they were testing it in a lab, they were using bats to test it, and then they got rid of the bats. It ended up in a soup. Someone ate the soup, and that's where it came. And that's where
it might well be just another like we're just going one step before the Big Bang sort of thing. So it still could have been bats, but it's like something gave it to the bats, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds very plausible because we are stupid like that as a race.
Stupid or deliberately malevolent, Eddie? That's the question, isn't it?
Can we be both?
I was going to say that's the tightrope that humanity is constantly walking.
Yeah, stupid or evil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the riots.
Look at the Sonic movie.
Yeah. Right, you wanted to mention Scarface.
Oh, that's literally it. They're remaking Scarface. The interesting thing about it, though, because usually when the news comes out that they're remaking, insert popular film here.
Yeah.
Everyone rolls their eyes and they're like, oh, okay, studio's trying to make bank off it and whatever. But the team behind it is interesting. So you've got, I forget his name. I looked it up because I didn't know his name, but I don't know his name.
It's Luca Guadagnino, I think, is how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Who remade Suspiria.
Well, who directed Call Me By Your Name.
And directed Call Me By Your Name. I have not seen Call Me By Your Name.
It's very good.
And I did not like the Suspiria remake.
Suspiria is rubbish. But it looks good.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
And I don't discredit that it appeals to a certain person. That certain person just wasn't me.
Yeah.
But I hear Call Me By Your Name is pretty good.
Yeah, it's great.
And he does have a flair for visual design and whatnot. So it's like, okay, as a director, you could certainly pick worse people.
Yeah.
And it might, I haven't seen this confirmed anywhere, but I think it's being written by the Coen brothers.
Yeah. Well, the thing there is, when they write scripts for other people, it's hit or miss with the Coens.
Gambit is the first thing that came to mind. Is it Gambit?
Yeah, Gambit, but they also did Bridge of Spies. So it's like, it seems to be based on the strength of the director to some degree.
Yes.
And so maybe a good director with their script, who knows?
But they're not...
I'd like to know why they aren't directing it themselves, but
Yeah, exactly. But they're not those aren't the people that you pull in to make generic studio remake.
No.
They're the type of people who would probably have brought the project to the studio and said, we want to have a crack at Scarface.
I don't know who would have approached whom, but yes, I mean, they do write, Bridge of Spies is a studio movie. I guess you bring them in to write the more, we're making this for awards, and to break even sort of studio film, rather than, your Kurtzman and Orsies, and all those.
Yeah.
I was to say, the only thing I will say is that their remake of The Lady Killers is pretty horrific.
Well, that was their worst film, hands down. But they did direct that as well.
They did, which is a shame because I'm a massive fan of the original. But
yeah, the original. I mean, the Coens are probably, just in terms of sheer number, my favourite filmmakers.
Then again, they're also rather prolific, aren't they? So again, by sheer numbers... Yeah. Law of probability would dictate that they're probably going to, release enough.
But, Woody Allen is very prolific. And he makes one in maybe 10 good films.
I'm going to say something which I feel like it might sound controversial. But I'm really glad, because I like certain things that he's done. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Midnight in Paris and stuff. But Rainy Day in New York, I'm really glad that it's shit.
Okay.
Why?
Because... after he obviously did that, and the whole everything sort of got built back up to do with the claims and stuff like that about him.
Yeah.
All the people that shunned it, and I just went, mate, you've all shunned something, but take Timothy Chalamet. It's not like I dislike Timothy Chalamet, right?
I do.
But his performance is quite panned in the radio. He's not very good in it.
Well, I've heard that he's just channeling Allen, which to be all Woody Allen leads channel Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Some less successfully.
But yeah, it's, I was just I'm almost kind of glad it's not very good, because you've all got, Woody Allen. And then...
I don't know, because it would have been better, I think, if it was really, really good. Because it would have forced, not all critics certainly, but it would have forced a substantial amount of critics to concede that you can... make great art and have a less than ideal personal life.
Have you heard? I was saying, have you heard the thing about what Woody Allen has said regarding Timothy Chalamet?
I've heard that he wrote in his book that the only reason that he disregarded the film was to improve his Oscar chances.
Yeah, which
I mean, that's totally believable.
Oh yeah, it's completely believable. But he has also then not commented about that, which I just went, okay, so Woody Allen calls Timothée Chalamet out like that.
Yeah.
And then Timothée Chalamet just goes, it doesn't say anything. I was like,
Chalamet hasn't. Well, what has Woody Allen said about it beyond that assertion, beyond that proclamation? Has he offered any elaboration on it?
No, it's more just like, he like seemed kind of almost understanding. I kind of want to read Woody Allen's memoir, see what it's like.
Apparently it's really good. I've heard it's really good, which you'd expect.
Yeah. But I do just love the idea of him going, well, Chalamet only said this, and then Chalamet just did, I say nothing.
I don't know, is he sort of like having to, like, by responding to Woody Allen, it acknowledges that I'm following what Woody Allen is doing. I'm not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Well, I'm acknowledging his existence.
Yeah.
Well, there is that confusion, isn't there, within this ilk of they don't know whether they want to erase people or obsess over people. And so it's like, do I acknowledge that Woody Allen is a person? or has he been retconned? Like, I don't think they really know.
Woody Allen, what's that?
Yeah, he is. This again, I feel like it pretty sounds bad, but he's interesting in a sense of, obviously, people always talk about the case to do with, it's Dylan Farrow, isn't it?
The guy who wrote it.
No. So the person it's Dylan Farrow.
I think so. Yeah.
Right, but they always talk about that. But if you talk to actors about the experience on set, like, when you, without sounding harsh to Woody Allen, when you look at people who look like they might be a bit dodgy...
You say he looks like a paedophile.
A little.
Are you calling him a shifty-looking Jew, Eddie?
Yes, I am.
How dare you?
Right? No, but he...
It's right, he's only being anti-Semitic, there'll be no repercussions.
No, right, but people talk... He does look a bit weird.
No, he looks Jewish. I mean, he looks like the quintessential New York Jew. Yeah.
Right. Just my point being is that for someone in the industry that was around during the same time and stuff like that, who I'm saying looks a bit weird, he is like one of those people where everyone talks about how good he is on a set. Like, right. He's not gonna, other than this like isolated incident, he's not going to come out as like someone who like attacked several people on a set, because everyone talks about how good he is as like a director on set. But
unfortunately, he looks like a Zionist trog, is what you're saying.
Therefore, he doesn't deserve our sympathies. Is that what you're saying, Eddie?
If you're a fan of Woody Allen, Eddie, or at least some of his oeuvre, I recommend watching some of his stand-up on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Because he was a stand-up before becoming a filmmaker.
I think it's Black and White.
Yeah.
What's that one? What am I thinking of, Sam?
I think you're thinking it's just a stand-up set, but I think it's particularly notable for the Moose story.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
So yeah, just Google Woody Allen stand-up. It's great. It's the thing about comedy from like 60s, 50s, like Lenny Bruce. I just don't find it funny. I understand how he paved the way and everything, but Woody Allen is still funny. That stand-up is still funny now, like the way he
comedy from that era is just motivated by different attitudes and different people had a different energy back then.
But I think and
you're not really tapped into that.
There's one
in the modern day.
You're not. There's one line in that bit that has always stayed with me when he's talking about having an encounter with like a big guy and it looks like it's going to get physical. And he's like, so here I am, perspiring audibly. And I love that. Perspiring audibly. That's so brilliant.
It's almost like he's a writer or something, isn't it?
Almost.
Coming up with lines like that.
The accent was fairly good.
Thanks. I'm trying to get into the better clubs. If I ever go over to the east side. I've been rehearsing it. Okay. I think. Oh right. So I put a question to you.
Oh, before we get to that question, because that feels like the final thing before we move on. Mm-hmm. The PlayStation 5 was revealed not so long ago.
Yeah.
What's that for?
Eddie, was that sadistic laughter?
It looks so shit.
Okay. So yes, it's a strange looking beast, to say the least.
Like Woody Allen.
Yeah, I know. Like when the PlayStation 5 was released, I was like, that's a Jewy looking console.
Does it have a yarmulke on top of it?
Yeah. It's weird. It's sort of like, it's kind of a similar shape to the Xbox 360, but it's like a...
It's a Wi-Fi router. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying it looks like a Wi-Fi router, but it's got these kind of like white panels that are sort of like coming off the side of it as well. I don't know, it's just a weird looking design. The reason I wanted to bring it up though is that they revealed it as part of like a Sony press conference, because E3 isn't happening this year, obviously because of coronavirus. I'm somewhat disappointed because I was actually going to suggest that we watch it, because God, E3, no. I know that you two don't have a vested interest in video games, but E3 is a fucking cringe fest.
I know, I can't do it.
I've shown you like compilations of it before as well. I mean, like we could sort of like try and justify ourselves being like, oh, I want to see if like E3 has actual merit to someone who has no interest in video games,
right?
Or whether it's like whether it's just inaccessible. But really, I just thought it'd be good feel for the podcast. Like, oh, look at this fucking cringe fest that's been going on.
Yeah, well, I think we talked about it. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but the problem that I see with E3 is that it forces people whose jobs would have them confined to computer monitors with limited social interaction all of a sudden have to give PowerPoint presentations about millions of dollar investments to rooms of baying fans. And they just don't have the tools or the skills necessary to adequately present.
Well, it's interesting in the sense that, like, you know, like film, for example, the film industry kind of grew at a rate where the people who were occupying that space were able to keep up with it. Like they were able to grow, like they were able to sort of develop the presentation skills and the sort of showmanship and the attitudes necessary to kind of like create and present something like the Oscars, for example, something that has a bit of prestige to it. Whereas like E3, for example, like video games kind of exploded overnight in a sense. Like all of a sudden, these people who didn't need to be showmen and didn't need to have social skills and presentation skills, all of a sudden, they were piloting this like multi-trillion-dollar industry.
Yes, I think there's that, and there's the fact that there's a clearer division, I guess because there's more of an established infrastructure. In the world of film, there's a division between, it's understood the producers are the people that go out to charm financiers.
Yeah.
And their job is to be that circus, you know, the ringleader sort of thing. Kind of insulating the director and the creative talent in the bubble where they don't have to think about any of that sort of stuff. Like, sure, they might be asked to, actors, please go on Graham Norton's show. You have to do interviews and stuff. But in terms, you know, there's a separation of church and state. Whereas with games, the rock stars are the developers.
Well,
and so
yeah, I mean, you do still have producers. Like some of the biggest personalities, some of the biggest figures in gaming at the moment are producers and company CEOs and stuff.
Yeah, but like the guys
like
who go
Todd
out
Howard,
on that stage
I think, is
to
like
give the presentations, like they're the main engineers, usually not engineers, but they're the creative directors, right?
Well, yeah, when you're talking about individual games, but in terms of people who are like spearheading the conversation and the presentation, it's usually either the CEO of the company or it's like a major producer within it, such as Todd Howard.
Right.
But I think video games have grown up so quickly that like they haven't quite found how to approach it yet. Like video games is sort of sitting in this weird valley between being like a tech company like Apple and Microsoft or being something like the film industry. So they're sort of trying to cram like, oh, we're going to talk about our product in very like technical terms. It has like X amount of memory and, you know, this is the kind of performance you can expect. But they're also trying to have this kind of showmanship and prestigiousness of something like the Oscars. They're trying to be like, oh, we're like, you know, directors and actors and we have this vision for our product. Like, yeah, E3 is a disaster in most cases, but I have found that without it, I'm not really keeping track of what's coming out anymore.
Right.
Because even though the event isn't happening, they're still releasing, like, everyone is still kind of releasing the news of the games around this time. But rather than, you know, tune into the Microsoft conference for 2 hours of gameplay trailers mixed in with, like, these presenty bits from, like, the CEO and, like, oh, this actor's going to come out and this guy's going to come out. What we have now is just an hour-long video of, oh, here's just gameplay trailers for an hour.
Right.
And I feel far less compelled to delve into that.
Yeah.
It's weird, just by like virtue of it being like, hello, welcome to the Microsoft conference. You're kind of, even though it's terrible, you're more invested than oh, here's just the trailers.
Well, yeah, there's a human connection there, isn't there? There's someone anchoring you.
But there's not.
No, I know.
Because E3 is notoriously terrible at establishing that kind of shit.
Well, I think another problem, right, in like why they haven't figured it out yet, is because gaming, it's an industry that is so interwoven with obviously tech capability, and because that is growing so exponentially and so quickly, they render themselves obsolete relatively quickly. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Whereas with film, even though there are always developments in graphics and that sort of stuff, it's not so entrenched in tech. And so it has more time to figure out what it is. Whereas gaming...
because filmmaking kind of relies on storytelling, and storytelling is a timeless craft, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of afforded more leeway than business. But yeah, so the main reason I wanted to bring up the PlayStation 5, because I did watch the Sony conference, mainly because they were releasing, like, this is the first time you're going to see the console, and also we're going to here's a bunch of like our first party games, and the games were alright. There's nothing I'm like thrilled about. It's like, yeah, alright. But they revealed the console, right? Mm-hmm. What they revealed though is that they're bringing out 2 versions of the console. One of them is just a video game console, which has it has a disc tray and you can download games onto it and the usual jazz. The second version is a digital-only version, which means that there is no disc tray.
Right.
So if you buy that version of the PlayStation 5, the only way you can purchase games is digitally.
Right.
You can't own discs because there's no way of playing discs. And I don't know, I just feel like that was... We've talked for ages about like the fact that physical media is dying out.
Yeah.
That feels like quite a hefty nail in the coffin of physical media.
What's the thinking behind having those 2 options? Because presumably if you have a disc tray, you'll still be able to...
Yeah, you can still download digitally. My assumption is the digital-only version is going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
I haven't seen confirmation of that, but common sense would dictate that's going to be the case.
Does it have backwards capability as well?
I think the PlayStation 5 in general does.
Okay.
That's something they've been talking about bringing back for ages.
So that would be an additional... You'd be able to play... Where you couldn't play PS2 games on the digital-only version... A PS5, right?
I don't know. Well, you wouldn't be able to play any games on the PS, like disc games on the PS5.
I mean, there's the disc version and then there's the non-disc version.
Yeah.
I mean, on the non-disc version, you wouldn't be able to play any of those older games, whereas you theoretically could with a disc tray.
Well, I think you could buy them, like, because on PlayStation Store, there's like ports of older games that you can buy digitally.
Right.
I don't know if they've built it into the physical version that you can put in like a PS4 disc and it'll play the PS4. But like, I don't know, man. It's like, I know like what you gain is kind of convenience by having like a digital, like you just buy all your games digitally and boom, they're just there. Like, oh, I can switch over to Doom Eternal. Oh, now I can switch over to Bloodborne. And it's like no effort whatsoever. But you can achieve that on the physical version. And what the physical version affords you is choice. Like you can put in a disc or you can, because like, I don't know if this is something we were going to bring up anyway, but like shows are just disappearing off streaming services at the moment. You got shows like Little Britain and like all of these like that are kicking up a fuss. People are kicking up a fuss about it over the silliest of reasons.
Yeah.
I think like when I heard that Gavin and Stacey was being taken off, I think it was Netflix.
Yeah.
Because there's a guy in the show called Chinese Alan who's white, and the reason they call him Chinese Alan is because he likes Chinese takeaways.
Yeah.
But apparently that is grounds for the show being removed.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck off. Seriously. That's not even a real reason. Come on now.
Right, here's the thing. The bottom is going to fall out on this within a month, I would say. And like because at the moment it's in vogue, right? It's like every time something like this happens, you'll notice how what started as a protest against an unjust killing. How the hell have we? How the fuck
somehow
have we
that's
ended up on Gone with the Wind?
to let's tear down a statue of Winston Churchill.
But like you'll notice how quickly it's happened as well. I'm like, oh shit, quick! While this is on everyone's minds, let's get everything we can, everything on our agenda through the pipe. And and like Gone with the Wind is like such a non sequitur. It's like, hang on, what are we talking about? I thought
exactly.
It's pure sophistry. It's someone trying to confuse you by bringing in these different tangents. Like, hang on, I thought we were talking about police brutality. Yeah. But yes, I think it's gotten to such a ridiculous point where we're targeting Cocoa Pops and Paw Patrol. That I've seen most people just going like you just said, fuck off. And but the problem is it will go away and things will reset to basically what they were. But the next time this happens, I think it's an inch more and then an inch more. Do you know what I mean? It's going to get a little further every time, and things are going to happen more quickly every time.
Yeah.
Where it's like
I think it's worth pointing out that, like, if anyone is following the continuity, if not just Funfiltered, but Fundivided as well.
Yeah.
Like, it was about a week, well, it'll be a couple of weeks ago when this comes out. Like, you had a conversation with James Humphreys, shout out.
Yeah.
And it was not long after George Floyd, and I don't know exactly what was happening at the time, but it was like before, it might have been like as shows were being removed off all like streaming platforms.
Yes, it was around that time, yeah.
Yeah, but I distinctly remember a point where you were both like, I think it was James who said, this feels like the end of Western civilization. This feels like an impasse. We can't carry on the way we were.
Yeah.
And you were somewhat in agreement.
Yeah.
And then events over the past couple of weeks have just become so hyperbolic and satirical that now it just feels like, oh yeah, no one's going to take this seriously.
I think, like, I wrote an article about that. Basically, it was long, obviously, because it was me, but it was the only purpose of it really was to say we can all agree that the killing of George Floyd was disgusting. Can we also agree that killing anybody else in response is disgusting?
Yeah.
That was it, and that was only like 3 weeks old maybe, and that is obsolete now.
Exactly.
Because we're just not really talking about that anymore.
I mean, they're not obsolete in the sense that, like, even though they may not be reflective of the times, and they may not even be reflective of the opinions of the person who created them, it still serves as like an interesting little time capsule.
It does.
Like, oh, in that moment, that is reflective of how we felt and
how we were,
and what was going on.
Yes, but it almost, like, I read it now, and in a way it seems naive, because things have become so ridiculous that thinking that I could convince anyone to do that, to condemn all the murder.
Right.
It's like, this is how deeply it disagree. It's become clear how deeply we disagree on certain things. Like, it now looks naive in a way. So I wrote a follow-up article that was just kind of about everything, really, rather than with one direct purpose. And by that point, I'd stopped really being angry, and I was like caught in the hinterland between kind of shock / amusement and disapproval. And so I wrote it like consciously with less diplomacy to be just like, I can't convince you to condemn murder, and if I can't do that, I don't know how we're going to agree on literally anything. So I'm going to write with like trying to bridge no gap here. But by the time that I wrote that and got all that out my system, it just became funny then.
Yeah.
So it took two kind of massive shits, basically, for me to feel unblocked.
Okay.
So I think that's quite reflective. Obviously, most people aren't speaking out about it. But I think similarly, they're going to like bristle and then realize, oh, what am I angry for? This is so stupid.
Yeah.
To be angry is foolish.
And obviously, like what started this is not stupid.
Not at all, no.
Like, we don't want that to be people to twist it. Like, oh, you're saying the death of George Floyd is stupid. No, of course fucking not.
I think
it's the fact that this is segued and tangented to such a degree.
Yeah.
Like, it isn't even related to what happened anymore.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not negotiating anymore in conversation, and I'm not caveating. Like, if you don't take it as a given that we think that's deplorable, what happened to him, I can't keep saying it all the time just to make sure you know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like this, I'm not apologizing for, and like you said then, George, you don't want it to be twisted that we think that the murder was stupid or whatever. If they don't agree with us, they're going to twist whatever we say anyway.
No, I know.
So it's like
hey, I've been called a racist twice in the last, couple of weeks.
Yeah, but unlike when we do it in a ironic fashion on the podcast, you've been called a racist sincerely.
Yep.
Do you want to quickly explain that? I feel it merits, just so people listening aren't going, oh, you must be if he's been called a racist.
Basically, and I put this in a context to you when we were talking, Sam, of my brain just kind of like shuts off, right? It doesn't know how to handle things, so it stresses me out. My brain kind of shuts off, right? I don't know like what's going on in the world. I don't get what certain things do to really help.
Very quickly, can I interject before you explicitly say what it was? Because while we're in this area, something you said, Eddie, was a profound revelation to me. And that was when I was like in the mire of rage about all this stuff. you said to me, you explained that, like, you have your own life and you have a routine and you need to make sure everything is going to plan. And,
yes.
you know, so when you get to massive social issues like this, your brain is not like, it's not there. It's not.
Yeah, it just doesn't. My brain just don't function.
Yeah, and that reminded me of the thing that Jordan Peterson always says, like that idea of clean your room before you start trying to organize society in the world. And then we think, yeah, the arrogance of all these people whose personal lives are a mess, yet they think they have the credentials to engender massive global change.
Yeah.
It just seems like anything we have said, we are not advocating anything other than some things are bad, and please get your facts straight. That's all we're saying.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying. But you got these people say, "Oh no, bring down the police." Like, have you thought about what the fuck that means for a second? Incidentally, I recommend listening to Sam Harris's podcast on this. It's a work of moral genius, in my opinion. It gets it all perfectly right.
Okay,
and it comes from a liberal perspective and a very mediated, well-considered perspective. Anyway, I just wanted to say,
do you have the podcast, like the episode title to hand, just so people know exactly what you're referring to?
I think it's called "Can We Pull Back from the Brink" or something similar to that.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, Eddie, that I thank you because you arbitrated my rage by reminding me that we've got to focus on, bettering ourselves before we can think of bettering the world.
Well, yeah, and so basically, I ended up in a group chat with people who I haven't spoken to in a very long time. And when all of this happened, I put a black square on Instagram. I didn't really understand. Like, I get it showing support, but it's still being seen by my 50 mates and no one else. So
you just did it because...
I did it just because, but I also did... I signed a few petitions, but I found petitions which I thought were good. Like, I thought that I was like, okay, well, like, they seem well written. They've got a sort of at least a decent sort of goal with enough people sort of signing them and stuff like that. I was like, okay, I've done that, but I've chosen specific ones. And basically, the people in the group chat had turned this into a one-up. So it was like, oh, well, I've just done 20 petitions. I've been out doing this and all that. And then it's like, oh, what have you done? And I went, oh, I've done this. And it's like, oh. And then I was explaining that my head doesn't kind of follow all of this. And they were like, well, you clearly don't care. You're too self-involved. You must be racist.
Right.
Right. So that was one conversation.
Because that's a logical
So that was one conversation. Now, there is a statistical fact that more white people die in America from the police than black people. That is a statistical fact.
In sheer numbers and in relation to crimes committed.
Yes. Yeah. Right? Now, I'm not arguing the toss over whether to do with the whole like black white being killed not. I'm not arguing the toss over that. But the second time I got called it was because I was having a conversation with someone who had been in that group chat,
right?
And they went, well, it's because more black people get killed in America than the white people do. And I went, that's statistically incorrect. You can Google it, and they didn't want to know. They did not want to know. They did not want to know that was the fact. And it's the one thing throughout all of this that does grind my gears, and I feel like this probably has come up in a conversation when we spoke, Sam. I understand that there is the death of George Floyd, it's been the catalyst for a lot of things, right?
Yes.
But what I don't adhere to is the people who treat him like he's an innocent man.
As in treat him like he was a saint, sort of thing.
Yes. And that he lived a heroic lifestyle, because that is not true.
Well, this is the thing. So in my second article, which I've already said was consciously undiplomatic, there were 3 things that I wrote and took out, okay? One of the things that I wrote, well, not wrote, so in my article I linked to a bunch of videos of people more qualified to talk about certain things than I am. And I linked to the now famous Candace Owens video where a black Republican woman basically decrying how the black community in particular, her words now, appear to lionize and make martyrs of men regardless of how they were in life, right? And her point was, of course it's terrible, of course it's terrible, of course it's terrible, times infinity. But let's not also pretend that, he was an upstanding citizen. Now, I took that out because I thought that for how frankly retarded and simple-minded and monochromatic the conversation is, that is like 10 floors up when we can't even pass the first floor. Talking about George Floyd not being a great guy is 10th floor in that building of conversation. I was like, it's just I'm not even going to touch it because they're just going to obsess over that.
Because, and again, this is somewhat qualifying, which, it's a habit that I wanted to get out of even before you pointed it out, Sam.
Yeah.
Making qualifications and stuff. Just because George Floyd didn't live a heroic life doesn't mean that he deserved to die in the fashion that he did. I don't think anyone was,
No. But just saying that this thing is bad.
He wasn't a martyr.
But
like,
he wasn't a saint, That it's too complicated. That even that is too complicated for the ideology, right?
Yeah.
And so that will just be perceived as you just saying he was bad, therefore what happened was good. That's
Don't worry. The fact that the guy wasn't a martyr doesn't mean he deserved to die. We're not like endorsing the officer's behaviour.
I'm literally.
It doesn't work like that.
I'm literally going, he was bad, but how he died was bad. That's right.
You should know that. Yeah. They're tearing down. They want to tear down the Winston Churchill statue because Winston Churchill was a racist, and yet Winston Churchill was instrumental in helping defeat Hitler.
They're vandalising the Lincoln Memorial. That's the thing that really pisses me off. It's the thing that I keep seeing a lot condescendingly on social media is please educate yourselves. Like, you are having a laugh. You are having a laugh. I'm not having it.
I would say the last thing I will say is that the people who are saying that, in like most of the times I've seen it. Now, to be fair, I am basically not on social media anymore, but
good call.
Do you know, honestly, is the best thing I think I've done.
Yeah,
my Twitter account is still deactivated, and I'm loving life. But the people, like, and I'm not saying everyone. So anyone that's listening who has used this sentence who thinks they're not that, shut up. But the people who are saying educate yourselves, 90% of the time, the people who haven't, in my opinion, that I have seen.
100%.
Because I have seen people say, educate yourselves, and then I'm looking at their timelines and stuff like that going, well, it's funny because your posts all contradict each other.
Well, the thing is, they come from an emotional place and a narrative place of like, this seems to be the truth, okay? I feel like this is the feeling of the truth. And so, can you imagine sitting down with really anyone who propagates all this bullshit on social media and saying, I hear where you're coming from, I know why you're emotional about this, but did you in fact know that in terms of numbers, white people, and can you imagine them going, oh really? I will look into that, I didn't know that. They're not, they're just going to assume that you're lying, or they're going to assume that the data is inaccurate, or they're going to assume that data is in itself a function of privilege and white patriarchy, because the general vibe is that the cops kill black people indiscriminately. Ironically. Do you know, like, there's no argument to be made because I can't remember who said this, the dispassionate statistic will never be as effective as the emotional argument.
Yeah.
And obviously that's true. And I don't know. Basically, I don't know what you do, but I do think it's going to... I'm calling this the scold wall. That's my word for what's going on.
Okay.
Because they're scolding the rest of the site, the scold wall. Yeah, I've had to invent Weinstein a lot of new terms for this. What was one that I was trying to come up with?
Is this a Sam Lexicorner moment? The scold war?
I guess so, yeah, scold war.
Okay.
So basically the culture wars that manifest, I suppose, mostly as telling white people that they are intrinsically racist and that Western society is intrinsically racist, being told off for that in the form of robbing stores and killing people and tearing down statues. The scold wall. That's not Sam's Lexicorner.
No, it's not.
I don't wanna,
I was going to say, oh shit, I don't know where I'm going to put the music in for this.
No, it's Bad Samaritans, isn't it? All these people are bad Samaritans. I think that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think that's really accurate. As I said in my piece, good Germans is the thing that keeps orbiting all this. And like, I think like basically all of you, well, none of you are badly motivated. I think your hearts are in the right place. But if you give your head a fighting chance, like, you know, they are used to...
I mean, it's this sort of assumption, isn't it, that you everyone's on my side because what I think is because I'm fighting for a good thing, therefore everyone is on my side and everyone who isn't is the enemy. It's not a case of winning people over to the cause because everyone should be on my side anyway.
Well, that's the way they...
It makes me think, like, when it, like, this whole, like, the fact that, like, the term racism is just being thrown around so loosely, like, looser than it ever used to be.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's reaching the point where even, like, there was that thing, wasn't there, where it was, like, not doing anything is racist now.
Well, yeah, you can't be...
Like, how do you expect to gain any sympathy when not doing anything and lynching black people carry the same label?
Well, look, it's a religion. It is actually a religion. It's because it's tribal and it's binary thinking, and it endows you with original sin because it says, but it's actually worse than religion than Christianity, because it says if you're white, you are racist. Okay, and there's nothing you can do about that. You're white. If you're white, you're racist, and you have no control over that. At least you can get baptized out of original sin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least you can become Catholic. There's nothing you can do if you're white. You just are racist, okay? Accept it. Or I don't accept it, and you're actually a bad person for saying that I'm a racist. Yeah, it's this... The way the mental manacle is, well, I suppose I either support Black Lives Matter and all this, or I'm racist. Well, I can't be racist, so I guess I support Black Lives Matter. When you reduce it, that's what it becomes. But, you know, this is a low-resolution conversation. This is just the first floor when we should be talking about the whole building.
Yeah.
I will say, I like the fact that we said at the start we weren't going to talk about this.
We're going to talk about it. We've gone really in depth.
Well, yeah, because this was sort of a tangent from the PlayStation 5 conversation. So I want to wrap that up so we can move on.
Yeah.
The reason I brought up, like, shows being cancelled off streaming services is because that's if the PlayStation 5 digital version marks, like, the next step in the war against physical media, like, the PlayStation 6 and the next generation of consoles will only be digital. Like, Netflix has stopped releasing DVDs a while ago, but, like, we're reaching the point now where, like, everyone has just got a streaming service. So, like, every like, no one's going to be releasing DVDs anymore. Like, we're going to reach a point where in, like, maybe, like, 5-10 years from now, someone's going to release a show on Amazon. They're going to say something that someone goes, oh, by modern attitude, this is actually wrong. And suddenly, that show doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's no physical version in the world. It's like, oh, you don't like it? Yeah, it's gone.
I've been thinking about
There's no conflict anymore.
What about films, TV shows that depict racists as villains, or to critique that way of thinking? Do they count?
Not at the moment, but, like, because it does seem like they're trying to retcon racism out of history.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter, like, I keep bringing up Churchill, but, like, it doesn't matter what Churchill did that helped us. He's a racist, therefore he deserves to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, once we've, like, or at least to the satisfaction of the people who are, you know, trying to get rid of all this stuff, when they've eradicated, like, racism being depicted with any, like, what they perceive to be any sense of goodness, or seeing racism where there isn't, then, yeah, they're going to go after the people who villainize racists, because you're still, like, you're reminding us racism existed.
Well, it's that.
So you have to go.
It's like Daryl Davis, which I talked about again in that piece. This black guy that befriended a bunch of people in the KKK just because he kept showing up at their rallies, and then he was invited to, like, some of their meetings, and then he was. The Grand Dragon would come to his house for food, and then he started being invited to that, and he just formed these friendships, and he converted 200 members of the KKK. He convinced them to give up their robes, right? He's done more just in that one, like, you know, prolonged venture than Black Lives Matter has ever done to convert people to convert actual fanatics out of their fanaticism.
Yeah.
What Black Lives Matter does is driving everyone further to the right, because it's making people not want to speak up. They're going to retreat to their computers, and they're going to radicalize on the other side. The thing is, like, they think, right, I think that there should be a magnet in the middle of both of us, at the center, and we should be gradually colliding, arriving at the middle together.
Yes.
But they are perceiving it as a tug of war. And what they don't realize is they're going to keep pulling and pulling and pulling, and the left are not going to realize. They're going to think that they've won because they pulled the rope over to their side. But that's only happened because the right have given up the game. They fucked off that way to get the guns. And that is exactly I think that's what's going to happen if this continues. That sounds like a threat. It's not a threat. I genuinely think
Watch out, Black Lives Matter.
That's what happens if you try and enforce your ideology on people.
Yeah.
That's not a way to win an argument, you know? But yeah, like all of this is coming from people. So the implication with Eddie, for example, surely is that if you are not thinking about racism and being, what's the word? Proactive in combating it every second of your waking life, you are somehow a racist because you're not doing it. But this is everyone who's saying this are people who, until the mob told them this issue was in vogue, never talked about it privately or publicly at all.
No.
But now, because it's the issue of the day, you're racist if you don't.
We don't know
engage.
that, do we?
Well, we do. I'm talking about people we know now.
Okay.
Who never would talk about this stuff with us.
Okay.
Be it privately or on Facebook.
The thing I will say is that the group that I was a part of, and some of the people who were calling me out, I knew you about 10 years ago. Some of the things you said 10 years ago were definitely not. Were arguably worse than anything I have done.
It's just like I wonder how far truth and reconciliation goes, because that was the idea in South Africa after apartheid, right? Like the only way we're going to solve what the fucked up thing that happened here is that if everyone admits what they did and we don't prosecute them, as long as they admit what they did, how they benefited from the exploitation and everything. And can you think? Is there anyone anywhere that hasn't told us a cheeky racist joke?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? At some point, or laughed at one. Just laughed at one.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of referring back to what I was saying earlier, Eddie. Like you're racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do now. You're the worst thing you could possibly be. Because
all this time, I thought
because all you did was change your profile picture on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
You're now no better than people who, are in the KKK and rallying. So nothing you do matters now. You're the worst you can be.
All this time, I thought I was a misogynist, and it turns out I'm the racist.
You're a racist. Yeah.
That's mad. I
mean, that's not an encouragement, by the way. I'm not saying you're a racist now. Do whatever you want.
Yeah,
that's another. It's a shame because I have just.
That's another thing. I have
just ordered a white hood off Amazon. So.
Oh shit.
Listen, you've been cleansed.
I don't give a shit, mate. I don't. Honestly,
in the purge, you've been cleansed from the tribe, haven't you? You're not in the tribe anymore. You're not in the tribe, and so it doesn't matter whether you're not in the tribe a little bit or a little bit. Like the fact you're just not there anymore, and so you're the enemy. You're out of the compound. Yeah, the grades.
And I wonder if that's something they realize they're doing, that they're making enemies out of people that would probably saw them as their friends,
who broadly
but because they didn't
quite
make the standard, they're now worse than the people who they've been fighting for.
I'm not going to say names, obviously, but I can confirm that I know people who have abandoned people because they didn't share stuff on social media. They have abandoned that friendship.
Well, look, all lives matter. # all lives matter is racist. Right, I can't talk with you then. I don't know how to talk to you.
Yeah.
If we're going to say, it's, that's sort of my position now, which is if we start, at the start of any conversation about this, if I can't get you to condemn the murders that have been perpetrated as a result of this, without beating around the bush, or without going, but, it's a but, and it's, no, just say that it's all bad. If you're not going to do that, then we can't have a conversation. I mean, in the world of espionage, these people are what would be referred to as useful idiots, right? They're helping a cause because they're going, I'll help.
Yeah.
And they just they tacitly or actively promulgate all this shit. But here's the thing, we can't even agree on, I thought at bedrock, we wanted to get to a society where race basically didn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? What would be known as a post-racial society. Yeah. But even that expression, post-racial society, is considered racist by the ideologues, because they're saying, well, that's implying that it doesn't matter, that you can't think about it. Well, that's your white privilege, the idea of a post-racial society, because we will always, I want to get to a place where I just don't give a shit if you're black or white. It is irrelevant to everything.
No, it's just silly. We should stop talking about it. It's silly and it's winding us up.
There's no way to mean it. Basically,
this conversation's stressing me out. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll round it off then. Just in summary, they think that the way to advance is to care more and more and more about race.
Yeah.
And we are saying the way you advance is that you care less and less and less about race. I think that's the fundamental problem.
And I will round off the PlayStation 5 discussion that this was nestled within.
Yes.
by saying that by encouraging anyone who does, because I mean I don't buy consoles for like the first couple of years anyway, because I wait until the library of games is worth buying the console for. But I do encourage anyone to just buy the physical version. You may think you're gaining convenience by having a digital-only console, but you're losing choice, and you're also encouraging the industry to carry on to the place where, like, you won't own anything anymore because you'll buy something that exists on a digital storefront that could be deleted at a moment's notice.
Yes,
you know?
And I would add to that, expediency isn't always a virtue.
No, exactly.
Like what? It's like an age-old adage. The best, nothing worth having. Hang on. Is that right? Nothing worth having comes easy.
Sure.
Is that the expression? Okay.
Okay.
Yes. The point being that ease is not necessarily a benefit in the long run.
Can I just say, right, when you brought up the PS5 initially, I thought you were going to talk about the fact that it had been compared, that online, that had been compared to a wireless router, and that the Xbox had been compared to a mini fridge. That's what I thought this conversation was going to be about, because that's quite funny.
They're not the...
And we've
the best looking.
And we've just had the heaviest conversation we've ever had on the podcast.
Well, I thought that it was me. I felt somewhat duty bound to discourage the eradication of physical media.
Yes.
Because this is definitely, like, definitively a moment on that path. Not a moment on that path. A stop.
No, I get you.
Sam, help.
I mean, like, as for where I was coming from, I was just so certain that you two wouldn't want. Not that I would have wanted to excavate the current affairs, but I was so certain that you two wouldn't want to talk about this stuff, and I completely understand why. So when that opening opened, I dived through it.
Well, it's not that I didn't want to talk about it, it's that I didn't...
Are you seeing a magpie out your window?
Yes. Do you see me salute?
You keep saluting.
There's magpies everywhere.
Okay.
They just hang around outside my window waiting for me to open the curtains in the morning.
Aren't you supposed to say, like, good morning, Mr. Magpie, or something?
Yeah, I'm saying it in my brain because I'm doing a podcast. I'm being
brain.
Professional, Sam.
No, George,
Who's
say
it out.
Say it out loud, go on.
He's gone now.
Oh, bad luck then, innit?
Yeah, I can't say it because it'd be bad luck.
I'm currently just plastering up my finger. I cut my finger yesterday. It's the first time I've ever tried to make sweet potato fries, like, from scratch rather than just buying something frozen.
Okay.
Sweet potato is a lot harder to cut than I realised.
Yep.
Even with a good knife.
Right.
And
oh, he's back. Good morning, Mr. Mag. No, afternoon. Good afternoon,
There it
Mr.
is.
Magpie. There you go.
Yes.
You happy now?
And so I cut my finger and it literally bled for like half an hour.
Right.
And it's now started again 3 times today. So it's going well.
Racist.
I'm sorry, my blood is the wrong colour. Oh, mate. I'm getting...
What colour's your blood?
That's fine. If I say we all bleed the same, I'll still come across as racist. So
that's such like a menacing point of, like, solidarity, isn't it? It's like, look, we're all the same. We bleed the same colour.
I just can't wait for my boss to listen to this and sack me. It's going to be great.
Yeah, no, that's all I was going to say. Is, like, it wasn't that I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to have the conversation. It's that I didn't feel like I had anything to say. Like, when we're all in group chats with each other and other people, and this has been discussed in said group chats, and I've remained fairly quiet, not because I disagree, it's just that you're saying everything that I wanted to say. So what do I add to that other than I mean, the only totally. I'm obviously we have a very limited reach. I just think, I suppose, because we are of the generation that is seemingly deranged. There's we have more of an obligation to, even if we're saying nothing novel, just to go, I agree with that. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like amplify the transmission somewhat.
That's right. Yeah. But anyway, so I was thinking the other day.
Are we finally going to get to that question?
We are going to get to that question. And I was thinking, are there any films, television shows, sure there are plenty of books, but so film and TV that have made the world a worse place, that have made society a worse place in whatever way, really. And obviously this transcends, like you asked, George, by this you don't mean have made cinema worse, but
yes, because there are films that I've said that, like, for example, one could bring up Terminator 2 as the film that started sequel culture,
right? A
sequel culture that we are now just mired in completely. And you brought up Batman Begins as well, Sam.
Yes,
that kind of triggered the
Nolanization, the darkening.
Yeah, exactly.
which hit and miss. Yeah, so not necessarily a film that instantiated a trend in the industry, more a film where its philosophy or its message or something like that was appropriated by the culture, and it's fallacious or it's a myth, but people, because of this film, basically operate on its premise, something like that. Now, I thought that was a really good question, and one I hadn't seen posed elsewhere, but I have no answers for it.
Maybe that's why it hasn't been posed elsewhere.
But I'm sure there must be, right? There must be. Like, there are Nazi propaganda films, but I don't feel like they count. Like, they would have been bad without the films.
Yeah,
you know
the answers I have don't follow quite like that sort of vein.
Right.
But there are certain things about the two films I've got in mind. So the first one is Cannibal Holocaust.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Because it is one of the only films I know where people have watched it and then the guy who made it ended up getting arrested for murder and had to prove that the actress was still alive.
Okay. I see where you're coming from.
See, that's the thing, because I tried doing some research on this issue, and I came across films like Cannibal Holocaust, where there were like negative implications for the people who were involved, or like, people respond, like, religious groups responded poorly to the Passion of the Christ, for example.
Yeah.
But they all feel a bit too
twee.
Yeah, to kind of answer Sam. You want like that smoking gun where it's like, racism didn't exist before shifty sand people in 1952 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But there isn't really. There are always like small things like that, where it's always like a specific demographic or a specific incident that kind of hasn't really spread.
So that was like the one film was like that affected the people who made the film rather than anything else,
right?
Yeah.
But I do think that is an interesting thing of they thought the film was that realistic that they arrested him for murder,
and
then he had to prove how they'd done the scenes and then prove that the actress was still alive, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
If it had turned out to be true, then like, okay, fair enough. I would have been like, that's fair. You murdered his cast. Well, but the main one, like I had down, was The Interview, because and the reason this was like the first one that came to mind. North Korea literally threatened America over it.
Yes. Yeah. So that was my example, like my secondary example when thinking of this, and it felt to me like that was. I'm thinking, I suppose, more like ideas that seep into the culture rather than were a visceral, like precipitated, an immediate precipitation of something bad. So you could say like The Crow, obviously Brandon Lee got killed like making that film. But yeah, The Interview where it caused an international...
Yeah, like geopolitical tensions. But like North Korea posture every now and again over something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It just happened to be this film. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure what they did about Team America.
No. Although I do know that when because obviously they pulled The Interview from being shown in cinemas.
Yeah.
And there was supposed to be like a screening of Team America, and they pulled that as well.
Okay. Well, that's a bit silly, because it's sort of like, why would you... The reasoning for removing The Interview... The exact same reasoning would be applied to Team America. So I don't know why you would replace The Interview with Team America. Do you know what I mean? You go, oh yeah, that also slags off North Korea.
No, yeah, it's just a passive-aggressive move on their part. It's like, oh, you don't want that one.
But I do like the idea, though, that when they initially planned the screenings of The Interview, they went, you know what would be great to double bill this with? Team America World Police.
It reminds me of when that story about Disney employees, like when it was run by Michael Eisner, and it was like a regime, like a totalitarian regime. They put private emails to each other. They used to call the company Mauschwitz, and then they got sent this, communication.
They got sent to the Gulag.
They got sent a communication that said, please, anyone who uses Mauschwitz from now on will be summarily dismissed. And instantly they started saying, do you get the memo from Dachau? So it's like the human spirit cannot be tempered.
It can't be squashed. Yeah.
So I do quite like the idea. They went, you do want the interview? Okay. What are you going to replace it with? Oh, no, you'll see. It's something. It's innocuous. Nothing.
No, that's funny. Actually, I didn't know that they did that. I kind of have a little bit more respect for them now that they did that.
Okay, what about you, Jord?
Well, yeah, that's like I said, Sam. It's sort of an interesting. Like, this is the type of thing that you write an academic paper on, isn't it? It's the type of thing that you dedicate like years of your life to answering, because it doesn't seem like anyone's done it. In my kind of research, I found plenty of articles talking about how films have improved society. I found plenty of research. I found plenty of articles and like pieces stating that films have negative effects on people, namely. They encourage violence in youths,
right?
And obviously, the more recent example is that they social issues like it depicts racism or it treats people who are racist or misogynist somewhat favorably.
Right.
They never seem to give examples though, which I find curious. It's this nebulous like, oh, people just become violent after watching films.
I'd also kind of want
like, do they?
I'd want to know what Hollywood films or what any films really distributed by a studio, independent or otherwise, would distribute a film that portrayed racists relatively favorably.
Yeah.
Well, it's this bullshit. Sorry, to very quickly circle back just to make a point.
Okay.
No. That video that came out with all the actors, the black and white video of them saying "I take responsibility." Yeah. At one point in that, I think Bryce Dallas Howard says something like, "For all the times I ignored police brutality." Like, who in Hollywood has been? No, it's not ignored, like condoned it or wrote it off, like rationalized it or something. What actors have been rationalizing police beatings? Do you know what I mean? So similarly, like, I don't know, it's this idea like Hollywood is somehow illiberal. It's the most liberal place that's ever existed, probably. So I don't know what films they're putting out that, promote these ideas.
It's always the same though, isn't it? Like, it was, oh, films cause violence. Oh no, rock music causes violence. Oh no, video games cause violence. And there's never any proof to it.
That used to be the right, though. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, well, even didn't Trump, like a year or so ago, talk about like, oh, I'm going to try and quash violent video games. I'm going to try and discourage that from being done.
That's weird, though. That's weird. Because, it's definitely shifted. It used to be the religious right complaining about Marilyn Manson and, and blaming Doom for Columbine and stuff.
What was the chat show or whatever it was that Marilyn Manson was on, and the old guy is like, some Yahoo with a cutlass comes at you.
Yeah, what if some Yahoo with a cutlass comes? Oh, that's so brilliant. I had to write that down. That's like,
yeah, it's like, what do you want about, mate?
But again, that just seems so kind of silly and like such a relic now of seeing all these like wasps, these waspy. Americans just going like, because they basically, Eddie, they talk about like moshing. I'm like, what's mashing? Like, what? It just sounds like violence, and like they just can't wrap their heads around.
I mean,
it.
if they think moshing sounds like violence, I'd love to see what they think of a wall of death.
Well, that's the thing they're talking about. Like, I think the reason for this, it was like an issues talk show. I think the catalyst for it was
they got Marilyn Manson on an issues talk show.
They did, yeah, and this is before he's like proper Marilyn Manson, I think.
That's what I say. That's a choice.
And a bunch of metalheads and stuff. And I think the catalyst was a girl had been killed at a gig. Yeah. And so the big question today was, what's the appeal here? But it's funny just seeing all these middle class kind of Americans not
like
being able to
fuddy-duddy old women and men.
Marsh? What's marsh? That's not a word, But yeah, I don't know what the hell were you talking about that for.
No, that was another tangent.
Yeah. Yes, plenty of articles saying that Super Size Me improved the world and the day after tomorrow improved the world and stuff. But very few explicitly saying. I keep thinking Birth of a Nation. I keep having that image of the KKK riding into Wagner.
Well, that film supposedly like KKK membership exploded after that film, right?
So that would be an example, but I don't know how much influence it had, really. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I know race relations in America at that time were pretty fucking dire before Birth of a Nation came along, so I don't know if it did any further harm, do you know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm trying to think of... There's gotta be one, right? There's gotta be one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have one example. I don't think it's the answer we've been waiting for, because it is sort of a very niche example. But the one I arrived at was The Exorcist. And the reason I think that is because prior to the film coming out, exorcisms were basically dead.
Right.
Funnily enough. Like, there was, exorcisms just weren't happening.
Yeah.
Then the film came out, and it sort of triggered this panic of like, oh, maybe, I need an exorcism. There's a demon living in me. Yeah. And that's something that still goes on to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just people within, the Catholic Church who do exorcisms. There are people Some people call them con artists. Some people have more charitable names for them. But there are people who exclusively conduct exorcisms.
I quite like the idea that in this podcast, in this episode, the veracity of exorcism is what we're remaining mum about. Like, oh, we're not gonna come down on either side of this issue.
Yeah,
It's got arguments for and against.
Let's be fair to them. We don't know for certain.
I'd be interested to know, because the whole UK Film Council thing, the video nasties era in the 70s and 80s, like mass censorship and all that. I think The Exorcist might have played a significant role in causing that. So,
I
was going to ask, what is the story with the Clockwork Orange being banned in the UK?
It's the book that's banned, right? Or is it the film?
The film was banned until Kubrick died. Yeah, but I don't know why.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm trying to think. It's about these violent youths who just like rape and beat people up. So there's that just like gratuitous nature to it, but then that film is about the ringleader being subjected to the Ludovico technique, where he is brainwashed into no longer having violent impulses. But it all goes completely tits up. I mean, that would have been just a reflection of the time. Like, that was probably the religious right saying this film advocates violence.
Yeah. Is it also just because the specificity of the setting? Because it's set in Britain as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of British actors. Like, for example, when Spec Ops: The Line came out in 2012, that's a video game that depicts Dubai after it's been hit by a cataclysmic sandstorm. And that game is banned in Dubai. Doesn't have anything negative to say about Dubai. It's just the fact that it's set in a Dubai.
Well, that's what I find
post-apocalypse
really interesting, is because people are quite on their guard around elderly people. Like, you don't swear, you're not coarse, that sort of thing. And then you often hear the argument: these people lived through wars, and they can take a bit of blue language or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've always agreed with that. But it's funny that those generations that did go through World War II and stuff seem the most obsessed with the censorship to a degree of like, this is going to ruin people, this is going to meld their minds, and I find that really odd. You know what I mean?
Is it because of like how much they've experienced and they've seen so much like evil and they've seen so many so much bad behavior, and they're like, oh, I want to try and do everything I can to discourage that carrying on?
Maybe, yeah. I think like those sorts of things, like Deliverance and basically the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
they just hadn't seen that sort of stuff in films before. It just didn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of them were sort of pioneering techniques that they hadn't seen before either.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just that they didn't, that the concept was new to them, the execution was new to them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that woman is actually like, her head is actually rotating 360 degrees, and she's actually like vomiting and contorting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Not a film, but Beans on Toast, the musician, he did a song which was called MDM Amazing,
right?
Which is about him taking MDMA at a festival.
Okay.
It is a very good song. But he's got a story.
Sing us a bit.
I can't sing you about that.
Nah, sing us a bit.
No.
Come on.
You can look it up. He
Sport.
has a book called Drunk Folk Stories, in which he explains, because he basically wrote that song and then a few albums later wrote a song called The Children of Bedford, and that is because he basically met someone who came up to him and went, oh, because of you I started taking MD,
right? And
that was kind of, he was like, that's not what I wanted. I didn't want a song that made people take drugs. And the point of the story he writes about is that he found out years later that even though they had taken MD because of that song, they still, like, it wasn't like the drugs ruined their lives. They went on to do like quite successful things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think it was more a thing of, it's like, oh, because he talked about it, they went, oh, we'll try this and see what taking drugs is like, but it didn't ruin their lives. And so for him, like, he wrote a whole song about it because he didn't want people to like hear MDM Amazing and go, oh yeah, taking drugs is cool.
Yeah, well, I think there's got to be examples of that where like people have a go train spotting for apparently glorifying heroin use. I think anyone who said that hasn't watched Train Spotting.
Have you seen the fucking baby scene?
I know. But there must be examples like that where it's depicted either neutrally or like, I don't know, like Fear and Loathing, even though that's quite harrowing in terms of like the experience of what they go through.
Yeah.
But there's got to be some sort of like, acid looks.
What was I
like
say? I
fun,
mean, take the Beatles, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask like like my dad, he's obviously a big Beatles fan. If you ask him and the people like that, they will tell you that Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds isn't really about LSD. But the fact of the matter is whether that song is about LSD or not is a whole different thing. Of they have a song called "I Am the Walrus," and you can 100% tell that is written on something.
Well, it's like they've openly said we were just like taking mushrooms and dropping acid when we recorded this album. And you can hear it.
Yeah, exactly. But if you ask people now about the Beatles, they probably wouldn't necessarily be like, oh yeah, they were massive. This was the biggest band in the 60s.
Yeah.
And they were on shit all the fucking time, and people just ignore that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think like the go-to, like, if you know basically nothing about the Beatles, the go-to image is of those clean-cut boys in the suits, right, with the guitars on like the black and white.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you don't think of the long hair and the dropping acid and yellow stuff.
No, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. But there must be something like that has inspired. But yeah, I generally agree with what has thus far been the liberal defense of films don't make people violent, and they don't actually. I do agree with that.
I might put the question to Reddit. Yeah, because I'm on Reddit now. I don't know if I mentioned.
Oh, you're on Reddit. You're
in
the hub.
It's something I've sort of been like on and off about for years. But like I joined it as means of like trying to promote the podcast through like subreddits. I didn't know that Reddit had a karma system. This is not news to the internet,
right?
But Reddit basically has this thing called karma, which is tied to like what you post and like how many upvotes you get, and like the more karma. There are certain communities where you straight up can't post anything if you don't have enough karma.
Yeah,
such as these podcast subreddits that I was trying to get myself into.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there was no limit of karma on the Sonic subreddit, so I've been farming karma. Okay. I've just been posting shit about the Sonic movie and just been getting loads of upvotes.
Do you know, I've been not Reddit. This shows how analog I am. I've been going to Yahoo Answers. I've been on there, so I've been just asking. I asked a couple of questions because I thought, is there a word for that? There's not a word for that. So basically, Sam's Lexicorner prelude. And getting back, lexicographers and linguists going, no, there's not a word for that. The closest is this. But also, I've been answering some questions, obviously. So it's so funny. What the questions I've been answering, one of them was, why do white supremacists hate Black Lives Matter? Right?
Okay.
My answer to that was, it's self-evident why white supremacists would hate Black Lives Matter. I said, if you're asking why some people take issue with Black Lives Matter, the sentence Black Lives Matter, it's because they resent the implication they never thought so in the first place. So I said it's mostly not because they're white supremacists, but obviously white supremacists are going to hate Black Lives Matter. They removed that answer. That was removed for contravening some law or some bullshit.
Right.
Anyway, I keep returning to this subject area.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's draw a line under it.
Can I just say, I love the fact that I told you like a few episodes back that I had watched some TikToks, which I stopped doing.
Yeah.
But then Jordan's on Reddit, you're on Yahoo. But if I was like, oh, I'm on TikTok, you'd be like, well, what the fuck is wrong with your life?
Yeah, but I was like, I'm on Reddit for like business reasons, quote unquote.
You're posting Sonic memes.
I have to build up my karma so I can promote the podcast.
You can't sit there and be like, I'm doing it for business, and you're posting Sonic memes. You can't.
Well, to be fair, Yahoo Answers is basically like a librry. It's like,
and you were too controversial for Yahoo Answers. They banned your bloody answer.
I know that, but I think a cough that was above 2 decibels would be too controversial for Yahoo Answers. But no, TikTok is the
scum.
The place of the scum. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we cleared that up. Cheers, guys.
So we will return to this subject if we come up with some better answers.
Yeah, if by chance anyone is listening and they think they have a good answer. Well, if anyone is listening. But if you think
they're not at this point, they heard our conversation on Black Lives Matter and went...
Okay, shall we get to it then?
Okay.
Yes, right. So, before anybody clicks off the podcast, before anybody stops listening...
We're an hour and 55 in, George. There is no one listening.
30 disclaimers before we get to Doctor Who. It's going to be longer than the actual Doctor Who conversation.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we've fallen into the trap of just, like, every season of Doctor Who, we're going through it episode by episode, and we're just reading off, like, a list of, like, notes. And it's very Very, very long, very meticulous discussions that ultimately don't really go anywhere because all we're saying is, I noticed this, I think this.
And unless you're watching it with us, you're basically not going to know what the fuck we're talking about most of the time.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And also, it's sort of like, we're now reaching the point with Doctor Who where even, like, we were planning to change the strategy anyway because even we were kind of getting sick of it.
Yeah.
But we're reaching the point in Doctor Who where, like, it's really not good.
No.
And like Sam, who is not a fan, you probably don't want to give these episodes their moment in the spotlight.
No.
You know, like you don't want to like, oh, I want to go through this episode by episode because there are some episodes which are just bad.
Yeah.
Like that's all that really needs to be said about them. Me and Eddie, as fans, we're reaching the point where we're getting kind of exhausted from the whole thing as well.
Yeah.
Ex-fan, yeah. So yeah, I don't think we're doing the episode by episode thing this episode.
No, we're going to talk more broadly about what all of the episodes are presented.
Yeah, we might dive into like we might talk specifics here and there, but we're going to try and make this like a podcast where it's just this freeform discussion about Doctor Who rather than this episode. Yeah,
unfortunately, I've got to instantly contradict that by asking. This is where you're gonna have to indulge me, lads, just so I can get it all on the just so I can get it all on the record. Because I've had to write this out like I'm making a fucking public statement. My foreplay to our Doctor Who dive.
Right, okay.
So firstly, I want to just explain, maybe it's not yours, but my personal approach to reviews. In general, not just for Doctor Who.
Okay.
We're not an establishment podcast, right? We don't work for the BBC. We're not paid, but we are not establishment. We are just three.
Well, we're not even established. We're no one.
We're no one. We have no audience. Yeah. So I don't feel compelled to occupy my best self. In other words, I don't approach reviewing things like I would approach writing an essay for university, right?
Okay.
I'm not like 100% objective. We're not an objective channel, I don't think.
Okay.
We are our opinions. And, if you find those interesting, you come back to us, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's my first disclaimer. Now, on a week-to-week basis, I watch and reject countless films and television shows that we don't discuss on the podcast, and you do too as well.
Yeah.
Most of which are more worthy of discussion than Doctor Who at this point. I would say Doctor Who is now falling firmly into the category of that which normally wouldn't be worthy of conversation.
Yes.
But we've committed to it, and the completist in me rejects stopping now.
Okay.
But it does feel a bit like a sick joke that we have to keep talking about it. Doctor Who has become a prison a little bit for me. I would say most of my opinions or answers to questions can be condensed to, so bear that in mind. I'm sorry if it comes across as being a bad sport, but I don't care about a lot of it. But let me clarify my overall position on Doctor Who at this point in time, just so that any dismissiveness you might detect is understood.
The rain. Oh God! Talking about pathetic fallacy. This rain is starting.
It's the rain, is it? Okay. Here's the public statement. Its early years were fun and clever. That is no longer the case. Just like I don't want Ben and Jerry's or Sarah Paulson or Lad Bible lecturing me about racial equality, I want Doctor Who to know its place. Now, this isn't saying that things must be confined to the box in which they started. It's okay to try, but in my opinion, the show is ignorant of its limitations. It's too wrapped up in its own convoluted mythology. We always distinguish on this podcast the difference between smart and smart-ass, but Who is neither anymore. It's an essay stuffed with hedges to pad out the word count, contrived with technical language that on its face sounds intelligent and articulate, but some of those words carry meaning, some just have a higher than average syllable count. Some people can express that kind of prose gracefully, but most do it clunkily. I would say Doctor Who is the latter. The plottiness aside, its tone is also misjudged. This is just a personal thing. I don't want the Doctor to be silly. I suppose I want him to be Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka. But he's not Walter White, and he's not John Rambo. And I scoff when I see him trying to suggest otherwise because it feels like posturing. And as far as I can tell, according to you two lads, the further we go along, Doctor Who will demonstrate its proclivity for posturing in many different ways. To say that I like Doctor Who when it's simple is to say I like it when it can execute complex ideas seamlessly. It needs to exist in the hinterland that is universal entertainment, if it's for families, that is. I would say Prisoner of Azkaban is a great example of this. We don't want Doctor Who to be Primer. We don't want it to be Mr. Ben. It would take a lot more thinking to precisely qualify and quantify exactly what I think it should be, but I know when I see it either way. That is my press release.
Okay.
But very quickly, in writing that press release, it occurred to me that so any word that like has to confer like or for a child has a negative connotation because those words are often used disparagingly towards adults, right?
Yes.
It's like infantile, juvenile, puerile. So, cue Sam's Lexicorner.
Samuel. Words. Phrases. Sam's Lexicorner.
I want to invent a term for anything in the fields of arts and entertainment that's directed at children. So it could be films, books, songs. I would say the closest existing, at least in how it sounds, is juvenilia. But juvenilia refers to works created by someone when they are young. So like scripts we would have written in school and stuff like that.
I see. Okay.
So I had to go looking into my Greek and Latin for this. I came up with literature. So in Latin, children is liberi. But that sounds too close to literature. Would you agree? Literature?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going...
Also liberal literature.
Yes,
You could say it sounds a bit like that.
So I'm going with the Greek. Pediature.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Peds. You can't put that.
But the fact sure is, you want to commit that to eternity, Sam?
There are pediatricians, unfortunately, there are also paedophiles. But yes, I'm settling on pediature. Pediature.
Samuel.
Pediature.
Words. Phrases. Sam's Lexicorner.
Alright, let's talk about Doctor Who Series 7 then.
Okay, alright then. Well, this is the second half. We talked about the first 6 episodes in the previous
7,
podcast.
Part 2 and the specials.
Yes.
Yeah, so how many episodes is that overall?
Oh, God, I don't care. Like 11, I think.
Oh, you're also there, are you? Okay.
No, I mean, I don't care about doing the maths. But yeah, I think it's like 11 episodes.
Okay, well, my first point, they're really doubling down on the Doctor Who thing, aren't they? Doctor Who?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's the equivalent of like whenever Gus kills someone, it's like, oh man, you're Breaking Bad. It's like, just stop. Just stop. Once or twice.
I have written a note that says the Doctor's name really isn't that important. It didn't need to be that important, and they've made it a plot point.
Well, the word Doctor starts to lose its meaning because of its sheer repetition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing that kind of annoys me on sort of the similar level, Eddie, is this idea that the Doctor... This is part of it being so wrapped up in itself, but the idea the Doctor's the most important thing in the universe. That his name is a secret of great importance. But like with Eddie, like if the name is revealed, I don't think it possibly could be, but I could be wrong. If it is revealed, it's either going to be arbitrary or a cheap twist.
It's going to be Dave.
Oh, so it still hasn't been revealed to this day, is it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, they can't, can they? They can't. How can they reveal what his name is?
Yeah, what the hell is the Doctor's name?
It's such a build-up that nothing will suffice, right?
Yeah. But is it sort of like you mentioned, I don't know exactly which discussion it was in. I want to say it's Series 6. Yeah, it was Series 6.
Okay.
You were talking about like the fact that Doctor Who isn't going anywhere. That it has no point to it.
Yeah.
And as frustrating and sort of numbing as it is, this whole like, oh, what's the Doctor's name? The fact that he's so important and everything like that.
Yeah.
Can that at least be seen as the show trying to give itself purpose?
Oh yeah,
Can we at least say that that's a positive thing? That it's a positive thing for the show. Like the mystery of the character is kind of all we have to work off. Let's use that.
I mean, I will give a thumbs up to trying to give itself a direction.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, you can't. I can't disparage that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it continues that trend of trying to depict him as a badass, which I think is wrong.
Okay.
Like, I am the oncoming storm. Love from Gallifrey, boys. Mate, you are not Sylvester Stallone, okay? You're Matt Smith. You look like Matt Smith.
Is that not part of the charm, though?
No.
That, like, he's clearly not a badass, but because he's a goofy-looking chap anyway, you're like, yeah, there's.
But it's not, though, is it? Because it's not like the show knows he's not a badass, and therefore there's like an irony in depicting him that way. The show thinks he's a badass, doesn't it? It depicts
Well,
him
you were
as being
saying
a badass.
earlier in the podcast about that scene from Younger,
Yeah.
where it looks like she's about to receive anal sex, and then you find out that she's getting the tattoo.
Yes.
And you said that even though, like, that feels like a joke, but the scene is played completely straight.
Yeah.
Like, could it be said that the reason they play that scene straight is because the joke is obvious? And the fact that it's being played completely straight is part of the joke.
But so in that
Makes
particular
sense.
example, when he's like shooting off regeneration energy or something at like the Dalek ships or something.
Yeah.
That's not like that's meant to be an awesome moment, isn't it? Love from Gallifrey, boys.
Yeah.
You know, that's meant to be like a, oh yeah. But it's not, because it's Matt Smith.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's not playing it that way, is it?
But they try it early in the second half of the season as well, by having him go up the side of a building on a motorbike.
I like that, though.
No.
This is the problem, though, isn't it? This is the problem. Like, that shouldn't be enough now. Like, the kind of, the things that sound good on paper. You know, like a double-decker bus in the desert. Like, that shouldn't be sufficient, right?
Yeah, that shouldn't carry the
Yeah.
show. I know what you're saying. Yeah,
I think the
okay.
thing with the Doctor as well, right, is like, there's not a bias here, but we have different histories with it. Like, I am not a fan. Now, I think there's a difference between even liking something and being a fan. Because I don't mean fanboy when I say fan.
Yeah.
I think a fanboy will defend the property to the nth degree, right? Like, whatever
Yeah,
happens.
but like a fan will just look upon it favourably.
Well, a fan feels like a word that has a degree of commitment to it. To call yourself a fan of something. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
I occasionally like it, but I'm not a fan. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, all right.
So when it's basking in the doctorness of... Okay,
That's going
that's going to pick up. I think that happened right outside my window.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Because your lightning, I know there's like a delay on Skype.
Yeah.
But I heard your lightning before I heard my lightning.
All right, okay.
I didn't hear your lightning, Jord. I heard Sam's.
Yeah, that was fucking loud.
There's just none in Cardiff. I can still see.
It must be right over you, Sam.
Yeah, I
I
think
can
it
still
was.
see the sky.
The flash came like right through the window, so...
Yeah, I saw the flash, but I didn't hear anything after
it was-
until
it was-
your lightning went off.
It was loud. But yes, so when it's basking us in the doctorness of Doctor Who, it's like if you've got a quirky mate. Like when they're doing their thing, like, he's being quirky, he's doing his thing. Whereas if you're not, it's grating to someone. Do you know what I mean? I think that's like my relationship with it.
Okay.
Whereas, like, if I loved the Doctor, like, when all's said and done, we've still got the Doctor. That's like not enough for me. That's hollow consolation
Okay.
because he's not my mate. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, you two are fans.
Are you saying that, are you talking about it in terms of the character? Or are you turking? Or are you talking about it in terms of Matt Smith? Because if you're ragging on Matt Smith, I'm going to have to fight you.
Well, I will rag on Matt Smith shortly, but no, in this particular instance, I'm talking about the character of the Doctor, the way he is, the quirkiness, you two are fans. Like I said, if you've got nothing else, you've got the Doctor, or indeed 3 of them for an episode. I guess with Jodie Whittaker, you feel like you've lost that too now. But
well, yes, exactly. Yeah.
But if all else fails, you have the Doctor being the Doctor contingency. That's like hollow consolation for me.
Okay.
Now, Matt Smith. I think for me, he's lasted too long at this point.
Yeah, we're gonna have to fight.
Okay, because his voice and his face are bothering me.
Okay.
And I quite like Matt Smith. You know, I actually do like him. I liked him as the Doctor, you know? Even though the show's aesthetic has matured, it doesn't feel as goofy as it did before.
There we go again.
Yeah, there is. The running around the TARDIS like a pillock, flipping switches and hugging and high-fiving, it bugs me more than it ever did, even when it was sillier.
Okay.
But I submit that might be sheer fatigue. Yeah, Matt Smith, I like him, but I think just in this series, I did feel like, it's time, you can go now. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Well, what's your thoughts on him for Series 7?
Well, I mean, I do like him a lot. I mean, his final episode I'm not a fan of, but the regeneration scene at the very end, I am a big fan of. I think that's a great scene.
Really?
For that character. Not I'm not saying like, oh, it belongs in the pantheon of cinema and television. But as a goodbye to both Matt Smith and the 11th Doctor, I really, really like that scene. We've said before that, like, we've argued before about the show's relationship to its character and the fact that regenerations, within the context of the show, a regeneration should not be treated like a death because the Doctor isn't dying.
Yeah.
It's the fact that the character is leaving the show. So it's this weird, like, the show is sort of going outside of itself.
Yeah.
Because it's saying goodbye to the actor.
Yes.
But as a goodbye to the actor, where Matt Smith is saying, like, you know, I'll never forget this. I'll always remember when the Doctor was me. I really like that. I just think that's a really well judged moment. And also the symbolism of him, like, removing the bow tie, because the bow tie is like iconography that's symbolism. Well, not symbolism. It's a symbol that has existed all the way through Matt Smith's run, and the fact that we say goodbye to that as well, I guess.
Right.
I think that's a nice sort of declarative moment, especially since Matt Smith says nothing after he takes the bow tie off.
I don't really have anything bad to say about that particular scene. I think it's done. Yeah, I've got no problem with his exit. His exit is. I did quite like that instead of the emotional porn of really dragging it out. I think it's like a head snap, isn't it? And it's Peter Capaldi all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm like, oh yeah, moving on.
It's him now. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
So, well, if you don't like them long and drawn out, you're not going to like Capaldi's.
Okay.
Okay. It's like a 20-minute speech or something stupid like that. I'm being hyperbolic, but he talks a while.
He prolongs it for a bloody episode.
Oh yeah, Capaldi's final episode is literally him not wanting to regenerate. That's the whole episode.
Yeah, it's those sort of tenants as well, right? I mean...
Oh yeah, but Capaldi's is worse.
Yeah.
Okay. Another niggle. Wow, it is really picking up. Another niggle is...
You're gonna die, motherfucker.
They keep retconning. And they keep treating it like it's awesome as well. That's the annoying thing. Like, it was this way all along. So I'm talking about like Clara with William Hartnell now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, okay. Let's take the opportunity to move on to Clara, because in this portion of the season she becomes a full-time companion.
You like her a lot, don't you?
I like Clara.
Yeah. Do you like Clara for reasons beyond her aesthetic beauty?
No.
Yeah, okay, but that's fair because
no. I do genuinely. I think that she's. I think she can deliver lines well, Jonah Coleman.
Okay.
And I think the speed. It's not just like the way she delivers them, but the speed she delivers them as well. She's very competent at delivering dialogue.
Okay. So you like what comes out of her mouth as well as what you want to put
as well as what I want to go into her mouth. Yeah. I don't mind it. In case like this podcast does become popular one day and people start rooting around on the internet, they might well find that this was like ages ago. I think this was during Series 7. I wrote an article for What Culture about Clara and how she's like the best companion.
Yeah.
And I think I was taken in by the mystery that they set up.
How do I not know that?
So in school,
I deliberately haven't told you.
You did that when we were in school. That was years and years ago.
I did not
so it
know
might have
that.
been Series 7. I wrote 2 articles. I have no idea what the second one was. But the first one was Clara.
Clara's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with Clara is it is nice to have a new companion, which makes it feel a bit fresher. I'm not saying I don't particularly think the episodes in this series are good, but it is like a new companion does always feel fresh because like Amy and Roy were getting quite tiresome by the end of it. I was quite happy for them to go.
I'm glad it's down to 1. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing is, I think she's fine. I think and she is a good actress generally.
Yeah.
But she's just kind of bland, I think. Like she doesn't. I don't know what her thing is. What's her thing?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of that's the thing that I don't address in the article, and something that I was directly called out for in the comments of that article as well. I think because I was taken in by the mystery of Clara, and I thought, it's nice that like the companion, it's not just like, they're a person that travels with the Doctor. Like there's something beyond that we're kind of uncovering with the Doctor. We're sort of in the Doctor's shoes in a way.
Yeah.
But the payoff is that Clara has no personality, basically.
Yeah, and she's just not different enough from her antecedents. Do you know what I mean? She's not.
Yeah.
I couldn't even give you a word to describe her other than hot. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what she is. Like.
Well, it's weird. It's like cute hot. Because like Amy was like, she was in the mini skirts and she was like sexed up a little bit. Whereas Clara is always dressed like she's like always completely covered. She has like cute dresses and stuff. So it's in that sense, she's different.
But don't get me wrong.
Wise,
she's no Karen Gillan. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But she is obviously attractive.
Yes.
Yeah. That's all I really got to say about Clara.
Yeah.
I mean, this is sort of I don't know if her having a full season would have benefited her.
No.
Because like she has less time. They have less time to work with it because they dedicated 5 episodes to getting rid of Amy and Rory. Yeah, I think think it was probably better that we had less time with the whole, you know, oh, how does Clara keep dying and showing up mystery?
Yeah.
Especially since the answer was as shit as it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not only that, but
she
like
jumped
it has
into his timeline.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, don't do that, you'll die." And then she does it, and she doesn't die.
Because the Doctor
And then the Doctor goes into his own timeline, and they're like, "Oh, it'll rip the universe apart," and then it doesn't.
Yeah, I think it's that level of convolution, isn't it? It's like as the show goes on, they're trying to keep it not just good, but they're trying to inflate it so that I guess it gets more significant as it goes on as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But the interesting thing about that, though, is that like we get the resolution to the Clara mystery, and then the following episode is the 50th anniversary special.
Yeah.
Surely that is the episode to reveal that Clara has been a companion to the Doctor basically his entire life, right?
Yeah, I mean that, and also I think one of the problems is that in trying to increase not the stakes, but the level of importance, like all this means something, and the timey-wimey stuff, you know.
Yeah.
If the show had an end game, it's like Lost. It's exactly like Lost, which is in their third season when they didn't know how fast to run. It's like, Doctor Who's going to continue forever. Yeah. So I think you're on a high end to nothing if you keep trying to inflate the risk and inflate the significance of the plot.
I'm going to say one thing, and it's, I suppose, technically a spoiler, but it's not it's a spoiler at the same time. What disappoints me is that she jumps into his timeline and spreads herself across, right?
Filthy bitch.
Yeah, she does. Keep talking, Eddie. Keep talking.
Oh, that just sounds like you're trying to crack one out while we're talking about her spreading across. Right. But she, you know, that goes all across his timeline. I would feel like that would include his future, sorry.
Yeah.
But there is not a single story in the Capaldi era where we meet another version of her.
Well, I mean, you know, is this the time to bring up that they very hastily address the regeneration rule that they seem to have forgotten about up until this point?
Yeah.
Because that feels like when during Matt Smith's final episode, he says like, "Oh, I'm dying, Clara," because he ends up staying on this planet for like hundreds of years, and he's there for so long that the Doctor starts naturally aging, which is, you know, you never see the Doctor age. So he's like, "Oh, I'm dying of old age, Clara," and Clara's just like, "Well, regenerate then, you silly bitch."
And then like perhaps appositely, he looks like Prince Philip now.
Oh yeah, a little bit, yeah. And Matt Smith is like, "Oh, I can't regenerate because I've used up all my regenerations."
Yeah.
And this is what I was referring to when I said keep in mind that Matt Smith uses regeneration energy multiple times in Series 6 and a little bit in Series 7 as well. Because I think the introduction of John Hurt...
The introduction of John Hurt ruins the fact that Matt Smith regenerated at any point.
Yes, because this is something that's like everyone has mentioned. The fact that they couldn't get Christopher Eccleston for the anniversary, so for some reason that correlated to, oh, let's just invent a Doctor out of thin air. And that Doctor is John Hurt. But because John Hurt exists, and because for some reason they count David Tennant's regeneration in the Stolen Earth as a regeneration... They've now used all of the Doctor's regenerations, which basically meant that, oh shit, we now have to like bullshit our way out of this now. Despite the fact that we've seen Matt Smith regenerate multiple times.
The thing is, it walks a tightrope between being, in a sense, an incredibly fragile property, because if you can't get an old Doctor back, an old actor, you're sort of fucked, because what else can you do? It's not like... Again, I'm going to keep referencing Lost throughout this because I happen to be watching it at the minute. The actor who played Mr. Echo wanted to leave because he didn't like living in Hawaii anymore, right?
Yeah.
And they had a plan for him to be this incredibly central figure in the story. And so they had to modify it and basically give his role to Desmond, right? You can't really do that in Doctor Who, you know, because it's all the Doctor. But at the same time, because of the timey-wimey-ness of it, you can make up whatever the fuck you want at any given time. And so it makes it hard to trust. Actually, I want to quickly...
In 4 series time, it doesn't matter because they retcon the entire show. So...
Well, here's the thing. Let's take Lost as an example.
Let's leave the hatred for when we get there, Eddie.
Let's take Lost as an example for the final time, right? In terms of the retconning and all that sort of stuff. Even something as notorious as Lost for its vagaries, when a character was gone, they were gone, right? Even when they were time traveling, history couldn't be changed. Those were the rules. And it's the same as like Jack, initially the idea of him getting killed in the pilot, and the producer said, don't do that, it'll teach your audience not to care. Doctor Who keeps insisting that I invest in nothing, not even its own integrity.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It keeps saying, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so I can't make any kind of... I can't give anything to it, because they can change literally everything about the universe in just like a click, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That said, I think going forward with the remaining 5 seasons we've got...
So, yeah.
Am I correct in my understanding that it's pretty straightforward, and it's like 12 episodes and a special, 10 episodes and a special, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think Series 8 has no Christmas special, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think Series 9, it's either Series 9 or Series 10 has 2 Christmas specials. It's bookended.
Yeah. Okay. But it's not all over the place, and it's... there's 3 specials and then this companion. And...
Oh no, this is the worst season.
Okay, so that's nice at least. I feel like I can be a bit more happy. Even if it remains shit, I can be a bit happier.
You don't have to suddenly keep track of all this extraneous shit as well. Well, before we get on to the anniversary special, because that feels like something you should at least give a little bit of time to, because it's the 50th anniversary
which
special.
Which one's that?
It's the one with the 3 of them.
Day of the Doctor with the multiple Doctors.
Right, okay.
Because it's the first time the show has had a special of that caliber. You know, like in Classic Who, you had multiple Doctor stories all over the place.
Yeah, well, in Classic Who, they used to do them for... So the first, 3 Doctors got together, then they did the 5 Doctors. But this is the first
time it's happened in New Who.
Yeah, this is the first one in New Who.
Okay. I quickly want to skim through the series. I know we're not going to do proper episode by episodes, but I just want to sort of get your general impression of it episode by episode. So we'll start with the Snowmen.
Bad.
Yeah, bad. I mean, I'll tell you before we do the skim, I didn't like any episode.
Oh, right, okay. No skim needed then.
Yeah, no skim. Yeah, I don't think I like. They were like individual moments, I guess, across it that I liked, but I couldn't honestly say that there were any episodes that I broadly liked.
Interesting.
See, my thing was Cold War and Day of the Doctor. Obviously, I'm including the specials were the ones I liked, but it's because I like the Ice Warriors as a creature, and they were obviously old Who, and this was the first time they came back.
Yes.
But the only other notes that I have written down for my thing are the Great Intelligence didn't seem good enough. I didn't think that was...
Yeah, what a shit villain.
It was a terrible villain.
Yeah.
And I thought that they could have done more with the... Trenzalore is supposed to be where the Doctor dies, and I was quite bored of the place.
This feeds into my earlier point, though, about it's the most dangerous place in the universe. Like, why? Why must you be the most important, most dangerous thing?
I mean, personally, I'd say Scaro's scarier, and you haven't even seen it yet. But also, the other note that I have down is the human... So, obviously, in the end of it, you have the Daleks with, the people are dead, and then they've got the human things like that. And that's basically treated like it's absolutely nothing, that they've basically made human Daleks. And I just went, Dalek-Sec hybrid must be angry, because there was a lot of effort that went into creating a human Dalek with the tentacles and everything.
Yeah.
And in this, it's just like, oh, look, we can have a thing come out of someone's head.
Well, we talked about that in Asylum with the Daleks, didn't we? That it's not Dalek enough for a Dalek. It's so weird that they decided to do that. Like Dalek human drones are just a thing the Daleks have.
And we talked about this idea that if it was fused with Dalek DNA or whatever, it wouldn't even do that because that's their armor.
No, it would look like the creature. It wouldn't look like the shell. Yeah.
Also, I forgot that River Song came back in the series finale.
Oh yeah.
Right.
But also, given that she is important in the entirety of New Who once she's introduced, why the fuck is she not in the anniversary special?
Yeah, that's weird. There's a bunch of stuff like that, though, isn't there? There's a lot of stuff that happens in the name of the Doctor that feels like this should have been in the anniversary special. Like the fact that they bring back River Song, and not just River Song, but post-death River Song, when she's in the library database. Yeah. Jenny, Vastra, and Strax, who are sort of who appear a bunch throughout the season. They're not even mentioned in the 50th anniversary special.
No.
The sort of revelation of Clara's identity, that's all resolved. She has kind of no function in the 50th anniversary special. She's just the current companion.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was just whether they had written the anniversary special script and so they realized there was no place for the stuff that they were building up to in the seasons. They had to quickly resolve it. Or whether they finished the season and then realized, oh shit, we have to write a 50th anniversary special. I genuinely don't know what
I imagine that
happened,
script
though.
would have been written far in advance.
I would have thought
You'd
so.
think.
Because if you go off the point of the fact that they couldn't get Christopher Eccleston, they would have had to have added in the idea of the War Doctor earlier than...
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, yes, but also, like, why don't you just use Paul McGann? Like, we've talked about that. Like, there's a 6-minute prelude to the 50th anniversary special that stars Paul McGann, and it basically tells the story of how Paul McGann became John Hurt.
Right.
And it's like, Paul McGann's, like, he's pretty good in that.
He's still doing stuff, isn't he?
know?
On the radio, he's still doing Doctor Who stuff.
He's doing the Big Finish stuff, yeah. He's just done a new... I think he's just done a new, like, bunch of specials.
And he's probably the only Doctor who hasn't aged to the point where he can no longer convincingly play the part. He still looks like kind of how he did in the movie.
He looks better than he did in the movie.
He looks better than he did in the film. So it's kind of weird that they have, like... Because it's not classic Who. The film is kind of its own thing, so you could have appropriated that into the new Who canon, but like nah.
Yeah, he strikes me as the Timothy Dalton of Doctor Who.
Pretty much.
He sort of came between two long-standing guys, and it was a bit. I don't know what the characteristic of Paul McGann's Doctor is, but like a really good one. That it was a shame he didn't get to do more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It was always a shame he didn't get to do more.
Yeah. Like Dalton, I think he's a rival for Craig, with Craig for best Bond, I think.
Oh, right.
I would say. But yes.
So you don't like any of the episodes
I don't.
this season?
I will say for the Snowman, I think it was the Snowman. That's the one with the Sontaran in at the beginning, right?
Strax, yes.
Strax, yeah. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It baffles me why aliens are never long-term companions. And seeing that crystallized, a Sontaran needs to be a long-term companion. They're great.
That's the thing. They are sort of... They don't travel with him, but they are kind of companions, because they've got like... They appear like 3 or 4 times this series, you know?
They also appear during Capaldi's reign, just an FYI.
Oh, you're gonna... Okay, I was kind of keeping it on DL, but whatever.
No.
But yeah, they're sort of like guest characters, well, supporting characters in all but name. This series.
Yes.
The Paternoster gang.
So yeah, what do you think of them? Strax, Vastra, and Jenny, that little group.
I guess I like them. Yeah.
Okay.
I like him.
I like Strax, definitely.
Yeah, he's good fun.
Who plays Strax?
Dan Starsky?
Starkey.
Dan Starkey.
Would we know from anything
I think
else?
he's portrayed a Sontaran before.
He did. So in the Sontaran stratagem,
yeah, he's like a backup.
he was the other Sontaran.
Yeah, he's a second.
Not Christopher, whatever his face is.
Yeah, he's the second in command.
Yeah.
Has he done anything other than Doctor Who that we know him from?
I don't know.
I can have a look.
Yeah, it's worth checking out. Yeah, he's fun. I think his delivery, like, as the comedy, it's typical Doctor Who comedy.
Yeah.
But I think it's his line delivery that sells it.
Yeah,
definitely.
He's done nothing. He's done nothing good.
Okay.
Oh dear. Okay.
He's in Sherlock Gnomes.
Right.
How's he look in real life if he's playing gnomes and Sontarans? Why?
Well, he's
been
he's a short
typecast.
fella.
Yeah. Is he a little person, as they say?
Well, if we're in the habit of giving away spoilers, Eddie, we actually do see him as himself in a later Doctor Who episode. Not himself, but we see him without makeup on.
Okay. Playing a different character.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course we do.
I will look forward to that then. What's his name? David?
Dan Starkey.
Dan Starkey. Is he related to David Starkey, the conservative historian?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay.
That might
I like
be a
David
stretch.
Starkey. I like the Starkeys, clearly.
Clearly, yeah. I will ask you both. I mean, Eddie has said that his favourite episode was Cold War.
Yeah.
And maybe Day of the Doctor. Were they like tied?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, they're the best two. Cold War is my favourite purely because I like the Ice Warriors.
Okay.
But Day of the Doctor is technically a better episode, I suppose.
Right, okay. Sam, what would you say your favourite episode is if you
honestly
dare to have
don't know.
one?
I couldn't tell. What's the one on the sub?
Cold War.
Cold War. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say that one because when I think of Series 7, that's the episode I'm thinking of. So yeah, it's the most like iconographic, I guess. Partly because it's the sub, but also because it boasts the cream of Britain's next crop of great acting talent.
Oh yeah, a lot of good actors in there.
James Norton, Josh O'Connor, what's his face from Davos? What's his real name? Liam Cunningham. Yeah, there's quite a few good ones in there.
Also, I think it's Mark Gatiss. So
is it?
explain
Okay.
It is Mark Gatiss.
You definitely have a thing. You definitely have a thing you like about Doctor Who, Sam, and that's Mark Gatiss.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not like because he's done the things I liked about his earlier episodes was that he was doing the regional and historical specific dialogue well, right?
Yes.
That's obviously not the case with Cold War. But so yeah, you must be doing something that I can't quite. That's and conscious to me.
Okay, so what did you think of The Crimson Horror? Because I think that was also written by him.
I don't think I was not a big fan of that one.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's obviously, he's got, because he did Adventure in Space and Time as well, didn't he? Which we will get to.
Yes, which we will get to.
There's obviously something that he does that I'm a fan of.
I liked in The Crimson Horror because it's set in Victorian Yorkshire, and when they show the cadaver in the morgue, and he's like, "Oh, that's put me right off me mash." Yeah, I really laughed at that. I was like, I wonder why Doctor Who hasn't done Yorkshire before, because it's a good place.
What's Jodie Whittaker? Is she Yorkshire?
Yes.
Oh, it's set in Sheffield.
Oh, Sheffield, yeah.
Modern Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Northern lass.
Okay. Oh, maybe that's why they haven't done Yorkshire. Because when they do, it's shit.
Because when they do, it's wit. Okay.
So Cold War seems to be the prevailing favourite.
Yeah.
It's all right. I like it. I like the Bells of St. John.
Which one's that?
That's the Wi-Fi episode.
The first.
Clara's first episode.
Oh, okay.
Motorbike up the building.
Right.
Motorbike up the building.
Okay.
I don't know. That's such an easy watch for me. I just put that on. And I'm like, Doctor Who.
Okay.
I was going to say, if that's the episode you're choosing to go, Doctor Who, there's like at least 2 seasons before that I'd put on.
Oh, no. I'm talking about within this series. There are like much better episodes of The Bells of St. John.
Yeah.
But like when we're talking purely about Series 7, it's like, I guess it's that.
Yeah.
I guess it's The Bells of St. John.
Okay.
What else do we bring up? Do we bring up Nightmare in Silver? Because that's a Neil Gaiman episode, and I believe the script for that episode was originally an hour and a half long, and they had to basically cut half of it out.
Right.
So that episode was just like butchered in production, and I think you can tell coming out of the other end.
Yeah. Well, that was the one that I, just going off the title and the fact that it was Neil Gaiman, I thought, with knowing nothing about it, this will be my favourite of this. It wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
So do you want to talk specifically about the anniversary episode?
Yeah, I feel like we should at least acknowledge it. I mean, what was your experience watching it, Eddie? Because I went to the cinema with my sister to watch it. I was that guy.
I watched it. I made an effort to watch it with my family.
Okay.
Which that was like.
Yeah, I think my parents were like they'd gone out somewhere. So it wasn't like I was depriving my family of like the privilege of sitting with me while we watched.
No,
the 50th
but I
anniversary.
don't watch. Other than like the Christmas special, I probably wouldn't have watched it with my family otherwise.
I see. Okay.
So I actually watched it with them.
I watched it illegally on a laptop 2 days ago. on my own.
Okay.
Top man.
On my own.
Yeah, so like I don't feel like I have a biased opinion of this episode.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like my opinion of this episode is unfairly, like I don't think it's unfair.
Right.
But we can't escape the fact that I kind of watched it in a biased environment,
Right.
I guess, because obviously the cinema was full of Doctor Who fans. All of the trailers that showed beforehand were like, they were for films that were coming out at the time, but they were like Doctor Who themed.
Right, okay.
You had Strax, he did like a presentation before the film started.
Well,
that
here's
was fun.
a quick question to determine maybe a personality difference, I don't know. So, you're a big fan of Doctor Who. Do you get...
Used to be, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Do you get on with fans of the same thing that you are?
No.
As in, like, you like being
yeah.
part of that community of, like, yeah, we're all fans, we're all enjoying this together. Because I have the complete reverse response to stuff like that.
It depends, doesn't it? Because I rarely interact with people who are fans of the things I like. I don't think I've ever really... I've spoken to people online who like Sonic, but I don't think in real life I've ever had any communication with a Sonic fan.
Right.
And we do have a friend who's really into Doctor Who, but he's into classic Who. So there's a bit of a discrepancy in that,
He's into both, isn't he?
He's into both, but he has knowledge of classic Who that I just don't. So
Right.
there's not. I'm not saying there's a hierarchy within the conversation, but there's definitely a discrepancy between the two of us.
I mean, in terms of getting on with people within who like also like Doctor Who, George, you are as close as I get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like we've had bad interactions. Like,
no,
but
that's what I mean. Like,
over
no,
Doctor
but
Who.
exactly. But like that's the closest I get. In terms of meeting anyone else who's a fan of Doctor Who, usually people annoy me.
Like, you guys know that I'm a natural contrarian to some degree, but that extends to my fandom as well. I would never go to a fan convention. I just wouldn't do it.
Okay.
If anything, even the thing I love the most.
No, I don't
wouldn't
think
be part
would,
of
to be honest.
a forum or anything like that talking about why I love the thing so much. My fandom's a private thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can share our fandoms about certain things, but in terms of like a group of people, like, this is the thing that is it's culty to me, you know? And it's
but like when we sort of share our fandoms like to each other and on this podcast, we all have different relationships to the thing of which we're discussing.
Yeah.
So we're not in an echo chamber.
That's it.
You know?
I think I'm wary of an echo chamber. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, I can completely understand that. But but I want, with the Doctor going to the cinema to see the Doctor Who 50th. Like, I wanted to do that because that felt like an event, and that felt like, as a fan, someone who's genuinely into the show, this feels like an opportunity worth taking, I suppose. I don't know how to
an appropriate
best describe
thing
it.
to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a good experience. I did enjoy it. The episode itself, going back to it.
Sorry, I've just had my set of thunder for the first time.
I think ours is passing
it's moved
now.
to you now.
Yeah, ours is going.
Yeah, it's calmed down. Yeah, apologies, because I was checking Audacity a couple of times and my audio was spiking because of the rain. So I do apologise if it's ruined our audio somewhat, listeners.
Fuck it.
Here comes the rain.
Yeah, exactly. But going back to the episode, it's interesting. Their solution to making the episodes feel more cinematic seems to have been to create to use. I don't know if there's a word for it, or if I'm just forgetting the word.
What was it?
The word I'm going to use. We'll see if you approve, Sam. The word I'm going to use is spin-off shots.
Spin-off shots.
Spin-off shots.
Right.
They're basically shots that are sort of taking place within the scene, but not really.
Explain.
Okay, so you've got like examples where like the Doctor is seeing the painting, Gallifrey Falls No More.
Yeah.
Or No More Gallifrey. Oh shit, I spoiled it. I don't care. But he's seeing that painting for the first time. And he's looking at it with Clara. And then it cuts to a shot of him in the room by himself staring at the painting. Even though the dialogue from the actual scene is still carrying on.
Right.
Now obviously that shot doesn't exist within the reality of the story.
Right.
I guess it's supposed to show the headspace of the Doctor, that he feels like he's alone in the room. I'm not quite sure. And there's like other examples where when Rose and John Hurt are interacting, there's like moments where she's like in this white void and she's sort of staring up into the sky as she's talking to John Hurt in the actual scene that's taking place. And there's loads of instances like that where it's like constantly cutting to these shots that are like spin-offs. They're like spinning off from the actual scene.
I get what you mean.
I
get what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems to have been their solution to making it look more cinematic.
So kind of like a microscopic version of the Mind Palace, where that's obviously not literally happening. You're not literally exploring the Mind Palace. Yeah, okay, I get what you mean.
Yeah. I thought that was an interesting way of doing it. Because, I mean, I think they're filming with slightly nicer cameras as well. But yeah, they really seem to be... They seem to take the opportunity of the 50th to kind of up their filmmaking game a little bit more. And their solution seems to be, let's just cram it full of...
Spin-off shots.
Stuff.
Is that where this starts now then? The new era... You know, the look of that show. Have we moved into a new era?
Oh, you can definitely... I mean, like, even... when you go to the Time of the Doctor, which is Matt Smith's final episode that takes place after the 50th, like that feels a little bit more cinematic as well. But yeah, like when Series 8 begins, you've got Peter Capaldi coming in. I think Ben Wheatley directs the first two episodes. Obviously, he's a cinematic director. Yeah, so like the show definitely feels like it's aspiring to a cinematic look. Yeah. More than it ever has before. Yeah. Can please carry on?
I've said everything that I have to say. Really, like I don't have any additional notes on that special, other than to say that it does it again of the badass thing of the three of them walking together. You know, with the with
what was it like seeing David Tennant back?
That's my answer, I guess.
I don't know. When you talk about like the moments that they clearly thought were good to like badass that they thought were cool, you have the moment where Matt Smith and David Tennant both jump on the table. Yeah. That is such a wanky moment. Unbelievable levels of wankiness. But I also think when they're in the TARDISes and and you have like Alonzi, Geronimo, and he's just like, for fuck's sake, and he's like Gallifrey like rises or stands or whatever he fucking says, and I was like, theirs do at least sound a little bit better than what he's saying, because he just sounds like an old man that is too grumpy for his own good, which I know is the point.
He's like war torn.
You know, but then he you know, and it's just like, Gallifrey, right? You know, shut up, mate. Fuck off.
Do they echo Tennant's final line in a different context?
Yeah. He says, "I don't want to go," and then Matt Smith says, "I always says that."
Why was he? But he's talking about something trivial at that point, right? What
like Matt Smith tells him, "You're going to Trenzalore one day."
Oh right, I don't want to go.
Yeah,
and he's like, "I don't want to go. I don't want to go."
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of like
fan
service, which, you know, some of it I appreciate, but there's a lot of it which is just like, that's, you know, you're trying too hard.
Hitting a gong.
Such as Billy Piper's inclusion.
Yeah, yes. Well, clearly that was meant for Eccleston, right?
Yeah.
I would say. Even though I guess she's more a Tennant one. It's a shame they couldn't get Eccleston. It would have been nice to see him back.
Yeah.
Like I didn't, you know, Tennant's like, it's Tennant. But Eccleston obviously remains my favourite Doctor. Just seeing Eccleston, I just like seeing Eccleston, do you know what I mean? I like his presence. I think he's got really good presence about him.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that was a shame. I mean, I've stopped trying to understand what's going on any level, really.
Oh, good.
Yeah, well, I was going to bring up Tom Baker as well.
Yeah, again, like the ultimate... Ding,
I mean,
you know...
That is the ultimate fan service.
Yeah.
And the only thing I will say about it is that they had asked him multiple times to come back for different things. It was quite nice that he did finally say yes.
And I'll say one little... Again, his inclusion, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I understand because it is what it is, that, you know, that anniversary special. I don't know how much he acts anymore, Tom Baker. And obviously, like I know
not loads.
Yeah, he did like the voiceover for Little Britain or whatever. When he turned up, it wasn't like, oh god, they've got an actor who used to be Doctor Who in the 60s or whatever that can't do it anymore. But he can still act. So that was nice. He's actually alright.
Yeah.
I expected it to be a bit embarrassing, frankly, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Like getting Hartnell back, you know.
Yeah, well, they couldn't do that.
Yeah. Well, they did once, right? But he had to deliver all of his dialogue from a chair or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the most embarrassing thing about Tom Baker's inclusion is it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Like, is he the Doctor? Is he somebody else? Like, what's going on there? I don't think that's ever been explained.
He's the curator.
Whatever that means.
The curator, well, he just runs the gallery, doesn't he?
Yeah, but is he the Doctor? Or is he the guy that the Doctor based his face on? Or is he like the Doctor but old? Like, what the fuck's going on?
Well, this is part of the continuum that I brought up quite a long time ago, maybe as like series 1 or 2. Doctor Who is not just a television show, it's a conversation with the public.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point it will prioritize populism over sense.
Right.
Over narrative necessarily. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't blame it too much. It's, you know, it's a property, it's an institution, it's not a novel in motion. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, those are the two main strands of Doctor Who. There's Doctor Who the show and there's Doctor Who the brand. Yeah. You know?
I just want to throw this in ancillarily for no reason whatsoever. I had a dream once where they were revealing who was playing the next James Bond. Mm-hmm. And the big reveal was that it was Sean Connery who'd be playing James Bond as an old man.
Okay.
And I still really like that idea, and I'd want to use that idea in something. Do you know what I mean? I think, actually, Damon Lindelof talked about, I heard him talk about this, like, it'd be really cool to do a Batman film with Michael Keaton in a few years.
Yeah.
Just the Tom Baker thing reminded me of that.
Okay.
Right. Is there anything more to say about that anniversary special?
No.
Yeah, we want to avoid spinning our wheels, just being like, oh yeah, it's just bad, innit?
Okay, we'll move on then to an adventure in space and time.
Yes.
So this was directed by a Breaking Bad director.
Oh, was it now?
Yeah, he's directed 3 episodes of Breaking Bad, including Better Call Saul.
Okay. So
that was like, oh, okay, he's directing it. Interesting.
Yeah, and Mark Gatiss wrote it.
And it's a period piece.
And it's period.
Yes.
So it's all looking up at the moment.
You guys told me to watch this because you said fans like consider it part of Doctor Who almost.
Yeah, even though it's basically a film because it's like an hour and a half long. Yeah. So it's sort of like a TV movie about the inception of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And it sort of skims through it basically skims through the moment Doctor Who was conceived by Sidney Newman. It goes through the production of like the opening episodes and it sort of deals with the run of William Hartnell as the Doctor.
Yeah,
and that's where the show...
Troughton.
Yeah, it ends when Patrick Troughton takes over the role.
Yeah.
But because of when it came out, it's sort of it's usually included in Doctor Who marathons.
Okay.
Like, there's crossover with the actors as well, because a lot of the actors are also used in the show.
Right.
I don't know if that's like an official thing people like use as a reason, but it's often bundled in with Doctor Who
It's the reason I very
marathons.
much hate it.
Okay, well, here's the thing, because the two of you before expressed a degree of dismay that it used some of the same actors.
Yes, such as David Bradley.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
Crucial one.
I gotta be honest, because this has got nothing to do with Doctor Who, other than being part of the anniversary special. It is a completely separate thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be like
there's one moment where it kind of pushes it a little bit.
Yes, I know the moment you mean. I think I know the moment you mean.
Yeah,
but
the Matt Smith bit, which I have written on my notes as "fuck off, Matt Smith."
Well, the only problem.
No, he has no need to be in the show whatsoever.
We'll get to that, but yes, it's like it would be like watching Tolkien as part of a Lord of the Rings marathon, basically.
Okay,
but I watched it because you told me to. It's fine.
But the thing,
it's fine.
In terms of,
we'll take that as a victory, given what you think of Series 7.
I think it's an interesting bit of history, and in that regard, I think it's good. But I don't like. When I say I don't like the use of the cast, it's because it is so many members of the cast that are in Doctor Who. I don't like the use of David Bradley.
Okay.
And then, as I say, the Matt Smith moment does just piss me off.
You know why they did it, though, right?
I don't care why they did it.
Yeah, but that is like a like the purpose of that moment is like in that moment William Hartnell realizes that he has faith that the show will continue.
Yes,
and Matt Smith is sort of a physicalization of that moment.
But William Hartnell didn't have that faith.
No, but I don't know. I don't know whether it's historically accurate or not. The problem with that moment is, I would say, all told, whatever we think, well, we'll go into what we think about certain aspects of it. It's something you release for the 50th anniversary, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to stand up outside of that, really. And Matt Smith being in it is part of that, because in 5 Doctors' time, you're going to look back and go, why have they singled out Smith as the one that he was foreseeing? Yeah. Because it just happened to be he was a doctor at the time. So I get it, and I actually think it's quite a nice idea. But yeah, I don't know what Hartnell really thought. I've heard accusations he was a racist, but all of these seem to be contradicted by how he behaved towards people of colour on the set. I found it really interesting that the director was an Indian, British Indian, like even in the 60s, you know?
Yeah.
And that it was that the producer was a woman, Verity Lambert, whatever her name was.
Yeah, exactly.
It always kind of like that's always the thing that I come back whenever the show is like trumpeting, like, you know, when the Twitter account's like, oh, Happy International Women's Day, and like it's like in the actual episodes it's sort of pushing, like, you know, oh, women are great, women. It's like, why, like, this show was basically created by a woman. Why are you so insecure about like?
It was really shocking.
Like Doctor Who is like this male thing that needs to be feminized. Like, it's a woman who brought it to the screens, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it reminded me of so I think the film generally, it's breezy and it's jaunty and it's quite innocuous.
Yeah, it's a very like pleasant afternoon kind of film.
It's not as good as it, but it reminded me of Saving Mr. Banks, or like both in its the idea of it, you know, of seeing the birth of this thing.
Yes.
But also in its tone. I thought they were very similar. Like, you can watch it with a family.
Another interesting parallel there is that Saving Mr. Banks was created by Disney.
Right.
And it's about Walt Disney.
Yes.
And this is about Doctor Who, and it's created by the BBC.
Sure.
The show, like, the film is actually created by the BBC. So, like, when you were saying, Eddie, that, like, William Hartnell didn't have faith in Doctor Who, like, I'm not completely doubting the credibility of the history that they're presenting, but that's always a bit of a worry, isn't it, when a company is making a film about its own history, that it's sort of like...
Yeah.
It runs the risk of perpetuating its creation myth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like this creation myth. I didn't really get that impression. It didn't feel like it was being dishonest in its portrayal of
Well, it kind
events.
of wasn't sensational enough to feel disingenuous. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of presents basically what you think might have happened. I can imagine that the reality is a little bit more distasteful. Like if Hartnell was a bit of a racist, things like that. I can't see them rosying the picture too much, though, because it's fairly mundane. Do you know what I mean? Like, even though it birthed this massive national institution, its inception is fairly straightforward. Producer has idea, gets another producer to...
Yeah, and like there's a couple of road bumps, but it basically does okay.
Yeah.
It's a very small film as well, isn't it?
It is very small.
It doesn't really capture the scope of the reach that Doctor Who had at the time.
No.
Most of the film takes place in the BBC studios.
Yeah.
William Hartnell's house in the BBC studios and like a park. That's basically where the film is set.
Well, it's quite crisp. It's quite crisply executed.
Yeah.
The dialogue is nice and zippy. It gets to the point, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
It also reminded me of, I think if you like this, you will like Quiz, which is the recent thing that ITV did, I think, about
Millionaire. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Very similar to that as well, which I quite liked.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not bad.
David Bradley is pretty good at playing David Bradley with whiter hair. I mean, yeah, if he was ever born to play a role, it was that, right?
Yeah.
Grumpy old. I want to see David Bradley smile. That'd be nice. I'd like to see him smile once.
Well, he smiles to Matt Smith.
Yeah, does he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it
reluctant
was.
grimace.
Yeah.
I think the word for this, my final word on it is, it's competent.
Okay.
That's the word I use. I don't think it's nothing special. It's not great, you know, but there's nothing really bad about it either, in my opinion. I think it's just like, it's well done, cookie cutter.
Yeah. Is it something that you think works if you're not a fan of Doctor Who? Or if you don't really have any prior knowledge of the show?
Oh yeah, I would say that, yeah.
It does.
I mean, I don't think the film works as a... I think it is something you put out for an anniversary. Like, it shouldn't really exist outside of that bubble.
Well, I think that's why it was put out, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think you have to be a fan to watch it, no. I think it is accessible beyond that. But I wouldn't recommend it for anyone to watch it, generally speaking.
Oh, right. Okay.
But not because it's bad, it's because it's like, it's not worth your time sort of thing. It's just like, it's quite middle of the road, you know?
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
What do you guys think?
I don't like the use of the cast.
No, yeah, generally favourable opinions I have towards it.
Okay.
Like, I put it on, I watched it, I was like, yeah, that's a thing I've watched.
Yeah, that passed.
It wasn't a hard watch. It's not something I'll go back to for a while, but gosh darn if it isn't a thing that exists.
Pretty much. But that is enough to make it a world better than Series 7 of Doctor Who.
Okay. Well, Matt Smith is now gone.
Yay.
Unfortunately. No, this is sad. These are sad times.
And this is where Sam starts to hate Peter Capaldi.
I can't hate Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, we won't influence your opinion.
Are you sure?
I'm sure I'll hate it. I'm sure I'll hate him as the Doctor, but I don't think you could make me hate Capaldi generally. But we'll see. We'll see how hard it tries.
End of series. Series 9.
Stop it, Eddie. Stop being like that.
Actually, no. Start a series 9.
All of it. Just all of it. Is it?
No, because I don't think you'll hate him in series 8, but series 9.
We'll see. Yeah, we won't say any more about it. But I think you said a couple of episodes ago, you were kind of looking forward to Capaldi just because it marks a change in the show, like a significant change in the show to a certain degree. Are you still like, I want to see what Capaldi does?
Yeah, the feeling after finishing this run, it was like a taking a deep breath of like, it's all relatively straightforward from here on, and it's going to be, softly rebooted, similar to when Tennant wrapped, and there was a sense that it's going to be, retooled now.
Yeah.
But even more of a relief because while Tennant, I think towards the end it was getting a bit much.
Yeah.
Series 7 is it's been the hardest so far for me.
Interesting.
To get through. Let's hope it remains that way, but we will see. Okay. All right.
Stop it, Eddie. Considering you're a writer, you're terrible at this. You're just giving shit away.
Yeah, but I'm being honest to my friend.
Oh, he's made it all sincere.
No, writers don't have friends.
Yeah, they just have.
They have the craft, and that's
They have vessels for other experiences, which they exploit for their own material.
Jordan, there is a reason none of us have made it.
On that thunderclap, do we have anything else to say about anything?
No, I don't think we do. No.
Okay, fabulous then. We'll reconvene for Series 8.
Yep.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.